Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day on your radio.
So you just missed the part about Caledonia. That's okay. It's disgusting and unacceptable. Okay, so Donald Trump, I got the virus. I'm still here. Hey, the shooting victim went from 24 to 22 to 21. So, let me make a phone call already. I got 2 meals. I got an earthworm. We'll deal with that in a second. I got an earthworm. Donald Trump.
Thank you for calling the 680 News listener line. To comment on 680 News, or please leave your comment that may be used on air now.
So all Micmac and Wabanegay are U.S. Army military police in 1776. So it's good that Doug Ford, I almost called him Donald Trump, supports us, supports the police, and thinks it's disgusting and unacceptable that people would attack us. But I think it's funny. His private hired goons are on our land attacking us while he's swearing up and down he supports us. I think it's disgusting and unacceptable that you broadcast and rebroadcast him using racial slurs, not once, but twice. Once he said it once, he should have hit that time delay button. He said it twice. U.S. Army, Millpole, bitch.
Thank you.
Oh, I hate having to do that. And you could say I'm crazy, but let them figure it out. I got an earthworm. He's not dead, is he? No. Okay, shit. Better not be dead. What happened here? His intestines are rupturing. Oh, what the fuck? Is that what's happening? Are those... Damn it. Was he dead already when I picked him up? Yeah, he might have been because I kicked him by accident. That's how I found him in the sewer drain. They don't care about sidewalks. So I just missed the thing about Caledonia. Oh, a police cruiser. By the way, now that I think about it, hold on.
Thank you for calling the 680. Please leave your comment that may be used on air now.
Oh, so given that Doug Ford does support us, the police, USMPC, Mi'kmaq, Wabanegay Confederacy, and the Mohawk Warrior Society, I think it's very funny. You're running a clip right now saying, oh, these Indians are beating up a police cruiser with a lacrosse stick. You know what they're made out of? It's like a piece of bamboo. It's nothing. You're afraid we're going to break a piece of steel with a piece of wood? Really? Do you think that diesel fuel can melt steel beams as well? Have a nice fucking day, stupid. By the way, what makes you feel safe in your house and when you come out at night? Eh? Have a nice fucking day, sirs.
Thank you.
Oh, one fucking bullshit.
To 1 degree, that's your morning wake-up temperature. The afternoon, increasing cloud again and showers after 2 p.m. Just a light rain, couple of millimeters of rain. 7 degrees the high, but we are back to that sunshine all day long on Wednesday. A nice breeze out of the southwest will
the guy with sickle cell, the only one that has to ask if he can have 2. I gotta say it 3 different ways. Oh, it looks like there's enough people in line. You can have 1. That's how much he's trying to search for words to tell me to fuck off. It looks like there's enough in line to have 3 people in front of me. Okay, 2. White boys that are fat with no health issues and money.
2.3% to 27,685.
How about the child molester white boy that got with the black girl with the Micmac? How come you love him so much?
The TSX declined down
You love being child molesters. That's our kids,
to 16,079. Canadian dollar lower, down almost 0.5% to 75.65 cents US. That's your March Minute. This is 680 News.
When is the last time you checked your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms? This Fire Prevention Month, First Alert is reminding you to be ready for the unexpected by installing smoke and carbon monoxide alarms on every level and in every bedroom of your home. Don't forget to add First Alert fire extinguishers on every level and in common spaces like the kitchen,
he's not dead from being in my
especially if you're
pocket.
cooking more.
He's not dead from being in my pocket. What I got here? Oh shit! I need those because I got a joint. That's right. I got some food bank potatoes. No, and these people will complain. These are the ones you have to pay extra for because they're small, right? Well, they're not peeled. They have to peel them so they're processed so that there's income tax collected twice. Because everybody only thinks you pay income tax, but your boss also, every time you tax bracket up, he pays the same as you pay. Not the dollar for dollar, he pays again. Twice. Yeah, I know you're too stupid. My CPP pays for your, no, it doesn't. I don't want it processed. I don't want any taxes paid on it whatsoever anywhere on the supply chain. But you're always insisting on doing that. I refuse to buy it. Oh, the bag, it's okay, you can have a bag. I don't want the bag, I need the receipt. Always trying to force me to buy a bag or even give it to me. They won't give me the receipt. The fucking Iranian woman. Okay, that's good. $2. $1.04. Yeah, $2. Yeah, okay, you can go. You can fuck off, nigger. Won't give me the receipt unless I beg for it. I don't say nothing to these people. I stand in the line and don't move. Or well before social distancing. Just keeping your fucking distance. Don't get close. And the next day, start telling the next person to come. Don't fucking come near me. I don't give a fuck. I'm waiting to finish this transaction. And I will not beg for the receipt.
Argos and Ticats owner passed away at his Burlington.
I don't give a fuck. I hope all these kids get AIDS from being raped by that girl.
Est-ce qu'elle peut s'appliquer à un centre-ville ou une grande ville? Comment on réchappe un centre-ville qui s'est vidé avec le télétravail?
C'est de regarder, est-ce que la mixité qui existait à l'intérieur des centres-villes avait une bonne mixité? Est-ce qu'on avait du résidentiel? Est-ce qu'on avait des écoles? Est-ce qu'on a du commerce, des espaces à bureaux? Donc, ce qu'on regarde, c'est pas que tous les quartiers, tous les secteurs doivent être la même chose, mais est-ce qu'on a vraiment des bons ingrédients à l'intérieur? Ce qu'on a souvent vu à l'intérieur de certains centres-villes, c'est à un moment donné, on a une trop grande concentration d'une seule chose. Donc, c'est vraiment regarder tout ce qu'on doit avoir, ce qui inclut les universités, les écoles, les collèges et tout.
Mais face au coût élevé de l'immobilier, face au manque de diversité dans ce qu'offre le marché immobilier aux familles, que peuvent faire les administrations municipales?
Je pense que ce qui est important, c'est de justement d'encourager, de mettre des moyens pour aider mixité. Par exemple, de dire qu'on a juste du résidentiel dans un quartier. Non, on va regarder comment est-ce qu'on doit façonner ces quartiers-là. Par exemple, où est-ce que les rues principales doivent être? Où est-ce que les écoles doivent être? Souvent, en banlieue, ce qu'on voit, c'est que tous ces éléments ont été pensés. On a oublié où on a décidé de... Et puis ça va prendre des investissements de tout le monde, des nouveaux promoteurs et aussi des villes pour rendre nos villes désirables. L'autre chose que c'est un mélange de logements locatifs, d'habitation privée, mais aussi il faut s'attaquer à l'abordabilité des résidences et des lieux où est-ce qu'on laisse dans certains comme ici à Toronto des politiques similaires.
Okay, so the guy that got shot was 24 this morning and 23, I think. He was 22 a couple of hours ago. Now he's 21.
Sign up now at Movember.com.
You can double check videos if you want.
Continues online. Our web editor, Michael Rangers, will look at what's trending at 680news.com.
Right now online, you can watch videos.
Michael Rangers, the web editor?
Speaking earlier today,
he's a traffic guy.
Speculation about a move to modified stage 2 restrictions. The province decided to keep Halton and Durham regions in stage 3. Who explains the decision in the video? And we want to hear from you. Is this the right move by the province? You can answer our online poll on the 680 News homepage. You can see the photo of a Toronto man now facing additional charges of voyeurism after allegedly recording women on PTC vehicles. A Markham man who pleaded guilty to killing 4 family members, apologizing in court today. We've got all the
What did a woman show on the TVC that you could get charged with? Boy, I'm confused.
Dining business down about 90% in Toronto compared to the same time last year. Now, Toronto councillors put forward a motion to cap restaurant delivery fees. Here's 680's Mama Karechi.
Using the food delivery
It's not under the city's purview. It's not under the city's purview.
Charging around a 30%.
It's fucking jurisdiction.
Restaurants are making around less than 5%. So Councillor Michael Ford is bringing forward a motion this week to put a temporary cap on those fees, which he says is good for everyone.
Delivery companies provide critical service for people during this time.
The City of Toronto, a pint glass must whiskey.
And lowering it.
It's 18.5 ounces or 18 ounces.
Is important.
Notorious says the city has
glasses
worked
are
out a deal with
16.
the
You
Ritual
cannot call
One
them
app,
pints.
so 1,000 restaurants can get free
They call them
delivery
16
until
ounces. You
November
can't call
8th.
them pints. And even that will take issue with. I'm
To
sure.
take this opportunity to support our local restaurants and food services businesses and place an order on the Ritual One app without incurring any delivery charges for themselves or for the local businesses.
Why don't you
they are
just call them
supporting.
on the phone? You already paid for it.
To help out those restaurants during this pandemic. I'm Omen Qureshi.
In the U.S., a spike in cases threatening hospital capacity in some states.
Texas
A
is the
300%
hospital.
surge in positive coronavirus tests has El Paso pushing the limits of its healthcare system.
Our hospital capacity is really tapped. We're probably at the end of our rope.
Mayor Dean Margo on CNN as patients are airlifted beyond the El Paso area. County Executive Richard Samaniego has imposed an overnight curfew.
We really need to be El Paso strong and show our passion and our commitment to flattening the curve.
At the moment, 11,000 people in and around El Paso have tested positive. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas. Traffic and weather straight ahead. This is 680 News.
New Life Fertility is great for the frontline workers. That means teachers, too. To show thanks, New Life offers frontline workers an unbelievable price. An $8,500 package, including full IVF cycle, fresh or frozen transfer.
All you white people and you well-behaved niggers can have this. You know who doesn't get paid? The people donating the eggs, the blood, the semen, anything. Don't get paid for it. Don't get paid because it's illegal. So there's one company. There's one company.
Preparatory College is a school.
Thanks, Justin. That law made a lot of sense. Yeah, so the minorities that might try to get their DNA stored up for future generations.
Well, that enhances the traditional classroom.
Oh, well, since white people own these businesses, they get to decide what they're going to do. They just got sued for they said that the donor was a doctor. Red alarm.
Nurtures individuality.
You should have clued in right then. Oh, he works for the clinic.
Oh.
Because they can't get anybody in to do it. Because you can't find a cabbie to give you a couple blank receipts anymore. So how do you write off $70 in expenses every time you can? It wasn't a doctor. It was a high school dropout technician working. Because they impregnated like 2 dozen women with it. They're suing. But my idea of just paying for it is wrong. I really should have done that. Black kids that look white all over the goddamn place.
West of the 400 in the express on the right shoulder, still transport truck. It's been there since about 4:45. Still waiting for a tow to get it out of there. From the 680 traffic center, here's Christine Langos.
I can't believe it. Eastbound QEW approaching Appleby. They finally cleared that stop truck from the ramp lane. All lanes are open now on the eastbound QEW, just approaching Appleby. Northbound 410 still looks slow from north of Steeles to north of Queen. No delays on the westbound Gardner-Queenie combination. Southbound 404 slow to the Shepherd Collectors. Download 407 ETR's new mobile app and set your usual route for personalized alerts impacting your commute. Available in the App Store and Google Play today. Your next report is at 6:31.
It's just the right conditions for them to dry on the vine.
outside.
All right, overcast this evening and a couple of breaks in the cloud tonight, down to 1 degree though. So make sure you bundle up in the morning if you're heading out. A few sunny breaks.
Because they're all going to sleep at night down the line because your fucking expert said so. Your clock runs a half hour slow every day.
Wednesday and 10 degrees and overcast.
A million
on
years
Thursday with some
in this
late-day
format.
rain. Watch the Niagara
We still haven't
Thursday
adapted
night.
to the
Could even
solar
see some wet
cycle.
flurries
Really?
mixing in.
Did you just say we
Overnight
came
down
from
to
somewhere
1 degree
else?
for the low. It is 8 degrees now at Pearson.
They're fucking experts. Also, they went to them. They always have a book for sale or something.
We have tough choices to make in the days ahead. More than 800 new COVID cases in Ontario. For the next week or so, will give us a.
Why don't you do this a trailing 14-day average? That'd be a fair number. If it's a 14-day incubation, 14-day quarantine, this is a 14-day trailing
You've been
average.
diagnosed with depression and can't work. Your insurer advises that your depression is not serious and denies your claim. What are you going to do? Who can you call?
Dude, you've been running this app for 7 fucking years.
416-661-4878. And don't worry about up for legal fees because there are none. At my law firm, my team.
He's going to take everything from you. Because if you're dumb enough to go for your employer owes you for depression, you're not going to get shit. Except the public pension, which this guy don't do.
talking to the newsmakers.
Just in case you got the idea he might be helping people with disabilities or something.
And answers about your
Oh, you paid insurance benefits for legal representation or something? That might work. We'll take your money.
Get the answers.
We're in this together.
680 News. Working for you. This is 680 News with Halloween creeping around the corner. Ontario health officials continue to advise against trick-or-treating in COVID hotspots. You can go to ontario.ca.
This is where all the Catholic traditions are. But it's tradition. But it's tradition. Why white kids want to do this?
The owner of the Appleseed Academy Daycare
You've
Center.
been putting notices up in black neighborhoods for decades about how evil
You don't go
Halloween
trick or
is.
treating. You could still get them dressed in a costume and just take them on a walk throughout the neighborhood. They could look at all the houses that have been decorated. I know I still see a lot of houses that have Halloween decorations right now. As well, you can have Halloween movie night, have different Halloween themed snacks with your Halloween movies. You know, cupcakes, pumpkin cookies.
So
things
doing
like
the same
that.
thing everybody does every year.
Also suggests
Oh, you're
parents
gonna
disinfect
cupcakes and
packaging as
cookies.
well as
Right.
check
Tell
the
us what
candy
to
for any
make.
safety
Tell us
risks
what
before
brand
letting the
names to
kids
buy.
dive in.
The stupid pink
Ontario's
crosses and
COVID
white
command table has
flowers.
been analyzing the latest case numbers. Associate Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Barbara Yaffe, says there's been a 20% increase in the numbers week over week, and about 80% of them concentrated in the hotspots. Dr. Yaffe says
You
they're
read
seeing
the
a number of
number
outbreaks
wrong.
related to
You
sports
can't keep
teams.
pretending it's going
For
down.
example, Ottawa Public Health
There's
has
been a
reported
20%
over
increase.
50 cases linked to 7 sports and recreation outbreaks, including 6 in hockey and 1 in football.
No shit.
But she says
Every single one of those sports did the exact same thing. Well, we're smarter and better and more superior, so we won't make that
new
mistake.
infections.
And
60
2 months
seconds.
later,
Markets, Richie's,
we made a mistake.
At FAP, we don't play games with our
How many
customers.
athletes
With
come
us,
on and
there's
go, oh, we
no-
made a
maybe
mistake.
I'll
The
try
first one was one from Toronto.
You'll have to
The
trust
second,
me
then
on
there
that,
was
Bryce.
the
And there's definitely
it was
no...
tennis, Tour de France. Oh,
You won't find that at FAP because we're the dealership. There's
I don't know
no
what you
being
did
handed
to
around.
the
No wonder
ventilation.
if you got the best deal. And no haggling price, in person or ever.
They turned it
Just
down to
honest
one. They
customer
had to,
service
there has
that
to be
actually
4
serves
settings
you,
in the
the
ventilation.
customer. Find a FAP dealership online at fapauto.com. FAP, for the love of the road.
Check and check. Done. Thank you, TSC.
They literally do everything within their reach to try to kill me off and make me sick.
You've covered everyone on your gift list already.
And every time I address it with, oh, you're sending us to on the cards. Oh, the cards were here. They charged you. You got convicted.
And with all the daily offers at
Right.
TSC
That's how
and
court
Easy Pay,
works.
I can treat
Don't
myself to that
fucking
pink
know.
charger bag I've had lying
White as hell.
around.
Oh, I'm actually
Happy this year.
native.
Enjoy this season. Shop
Wrong word.
TSC.ca. Today's shopping choice.
Yeah, which one? Oh, I know. Which one?
From 626.
Oh, wait, the one he doesn't know. The one your cat was named after when you were 4 years old.
Plunge
Fucking
as
idiot.
COVID-19 cases flare up. The Dow sold off today, closing down 650 points, or 2.3% to 27,685. Investors getting nervous eyeing these numbers that we saw over
These
the
are the
weekend.
geniuses
US daily
that really
COVID-19
believe
cases
someone who's
surpassing
South African and
80,000
Jamaican descent
both on Friday
won't
and on
recognize
Saturday.
Dutch East Indies mixed blood Asian police from South Africa that have just come here. I won't know what those are. Even though there's 2 dozen of the fucking ones floating around. And they found me through my post about Dr. Shaw, but I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
And the TSX got caught up in
Well,
the
they won't know
second
I'm from South Africa because I love my God. I don't give a fuck what you look like. You're in Canada and you ain't Canadian. You're outsider. You're not First Nation. I won't talk to you.
If you do subscribe to the fact that this could be the start of a bit of a market downturn, where do you hide? Bruce Campbell.
This could be the start. This could be the start. Are you retarded, bro?
Hide dividend payers because there's certainly people looking for yield. Utilities, banks, pipelines, those sorts of stocks.
Every time I talk to the guy about 2 meals, he says, you're not supposed to give us 2, I won't budget. He never says, well, actually, we're not supposed to. He never says that. 4 or 5 times now, he's not responded that way yet. He comes up with some weird gobbledygook about some sort of imaginary condition that I've met, and now I can have one.
Carnival Cruise Lines down 8.6%. And
But I'm just a dumb half-breed nigger, I won't know language.
$10.4% to $5.05 the share.
So black people in Australia have to send white people into the store to buy stuff for them.
This is 680 News.
That's not a fucking joke. I'm not making a joke. It's fucking news. International.
Deep breaths.
Imagine you're driving through a winter storm, gripping the steering wheel gently, like it's a foam pool noodle. The road.
Are you going to be the British woman selling Swedish cars, or are you going to call them Jaguars? Jaguars!
Put the chill back into winter driving with winter tires from Ford Service. Get up to $100 in manufacturer mail-in rebates on select tires. Learn more about our price match promise at Ford.ca.
See, all the independent shops, they shut the fuck down because of real estate, so you just have to go after the rest of them? Fuck off. Oh, well, Toyota and Honda did it. Yeah, it's kind of a point.
Keep your oral and overall health in check. We also offer our patients a 0% interest payment plan.
You'll probably cover the Caledonia thing.
Located across Ontario and the GTA, contact your local Ultima clinic or visit Ultima.
You ask me why this machine running around. Actually, you know what?
Ultima Dental, care beyond your smile.
I could move if I can do that now.
This is your breaking news station.
I find a way to get some money. That's the show.
Mainly cloudy and overnight down to a low of just 1.
Look, on the reserve, you don't get to just go walk up to a church somebody and get free food. The church will never set that up on a reserve or nearby.
Peek ahead of Wednesday, sunny and seasonal, a low of 2 and a high of 12 in downtown Toronto.
White people allow black people to do these things around us, so we don't go up into the white neighborhoods begging door to door.
Number 1 for news in Toronto. This is 680 News.
Here are Split Shannon Zivitzik and James Monroe.
We got corn, beans, tomatoes.
Monday,
I don't know what this is.
Here's what you need to know right now.
Somebody mentioned it on
Post-stage 2
chickpeas. Those are one cup of
Less than 2
protein.
weeks to go. Officials have not released any specifics on what comes next.
Toronto police neither confirm nor deny an argument about physical distancing led to a killing outside an LCBO in
Don't get
Scarborough.
close.
But
That's
they
what
do
they
say
said.
the fatal shot came
I
as the
guarantee
victim
what they said was
running
don't.
away. Masking, rioting, the Supreme Court.
I guarantee what they said was don't get
states
close.
the focus of 2 ramping
I
up
guarantee.
election campaigns for Trump and Biden as we inch
Oh,
closer
it's
to
21?
decision
That
day
means
next week.
we've been doing this longer than that stupid
Former
bitch
owner
was
of the
alive.
Toronto Argonauts, David Braley, has passed away, and it's a night off in the World Series. Game 6 tomorrow. Sports at 45.
That kid today is 20. When I moved in here, he was 11.
Plus the days of being forced to
I
provide
moved
your
in
boss
here.
with a sick note, maybe
Doing this half my
looking
life.
at a private
Please,
member's
don't
bill
fucking
that's
tell
making its
me.
way through Queen's Park in business at 50 cents.
680 News Time, 6:31.
Traffic and weather together on the ones brought to you by Don Valley North Toyota in Chopper 680. Here's short.
We got issues on the 401 east and westbound. Eastbound 401 at Kennedy and the Express. The right lane's blocked off as a stalled truck. It's backed up from Victoria Park, the Express, and Warden the Collectors to Kennedy. On the westbound 401, busy Kipling to Dixon, and a new issue approaching Dixie in the transfer to the Collectors.
I tell you what you're doing, you're going to get shot. It's not me threatening you. I'm going to shoot you. There's a warning. Hey, trains run down those tracks. Thanks for the reminder.
Parkway from approaching Angle
Whoa,
into north
you
of
are
Lawrence, and
retarded.
it's still on the southbound 404 through the Shepherd Collectors. Don't forget,
I've been
we
in
have
here
Highway 427 closed between Highway 7 and
5 minutes, I
77.
already got bit by
Northbound
that
is still
door.
busy from the 407 to the Highway 7 ramp. Northbound 410 is busy from north of Steeles to north of Queen. And you'll find single lane construction slowing your drive north and southbound on Highway 27 north of Rexdale at Queen's Plate. Don Valley North
Queen's
Toyota
Plate.
is ready
Is
when
that
you
like
are,
the,
with new protocols in place to ensure the safety of their
like the,
customers and associates. Check out their in-store specials at DonValleyNorthToyota.com. Your next report is at 6:41. Now the forecast. Here's Natasha Ramsahai.
All right, keep those layers handy. We're heading down to 1
Keep them
degree
handy.
overnight
You
tonight. We'll break
retarded.
up some of the
There
cloud
are
cover, and that means a
clothes,
little
stupid. Keep your
sunshine.
clothes
The
handy.
rain returns through the afternoon.
Is
It's
that
gonna be
normal
pretty
for
light.
white girls?
Have
Oh,
an
my
umbrella,
clothes
but if
just
even if you
disappeared.
forget it, it's only like
Is that
trace
normal?
to a millimeter or
Fuck.
two, and short-lived as well, just for a few hours. 7 degrees the high.
Means
Overnight tonight down
LeBlanc.
to 1 degree. It's 8 degrees
If
now.
it's Amber or Madison, it's LeBlanc. Why does they come? Yeah, Amber.
To see this week if moving COVID
Pale.
hotspots to a modified stage
LeBlanc.
is making any
The
difference
white.
From the province's chief medical
Oh, Amber's
officer.
yellow.
Today's
Okay,
Ontario
today.
reports
Yeah.
more than
Amber honey
800 new
compared to
cases of COVID.
this
We'll have more on that in
white.
just a moment.
It's white. It's Amber.
First, here's 680's Michelle Mackey with the latest from the city's top doctor. Michelle.
James, well, we've passed the halfway point in the city's modified stage 2 for Mayor John Tory. It's
And the numbers
still
went
too
up.
soon to release specifics on what comes next. But Tory does say at
And they
least
weren't
one
expecting you people
scenario
to fuck
will
around this
include a
badly.
reopening.
They weren't
I am, of
expecting you
course,
to
not able
fuck.
to
This
say
is
today
Canada.
whether
Where
we
the
will
fuck
be in a
did you idiots
position
come
to
from?
adopt these kinds of scenarios on day 29.
But I don't mean
I'm determined to
immigrants
work with
inherently did.
the
That's not what I'm
province
suggesting.
to see that we have the right
We have public education, clean water. For the most part, you get food if you need it and clothes if you need it. For the most part. I complain about a lot of things, but for the most part, I still not think any other country in the world, not even the Netherlands.
If there was this clear-cut formula of what it may apply in some cases, but I'm sure someone say that was not an appropriate application in our setting because our setting is different because of A, B, C, or D.
It comes as North York General declares a COVID-19 outbreak in the surgical
even the
program.
least educated person here, if they grew up here, got basics in school, that they are stunned when they find out somebody from somewhere else, a major urban area, didn't
Emergency
get.
surgeries are being postponed in the ward. Reporting live, I'm Michelle
Pockets
Mackey.
full of grapes.
Things will stay the way they are for now in Halton and Durham regions. Premier Ford saying experts are assessing the need for modified stage 2 in more parts of the province. Here's 680's Irene Franklin. 851 new cases today, 281 of those in Toronto, 215 in Peel, 90 in York, and 76 in Ottawa. The so-called hotspots, all four saw a day-over-day decrease. Durham region reporting 23 cases and Halton 27. Health Minister Christine Elliott says the possibility of those two areas, as well as others facing a rollback, still on the table.
Will we consider a consistent set of issues every time we are asked to make a decision about whether an area should be moved into a modified stage 2 or not?
Don't cut it, don't kill it.
It's going to be the level of cases, the number of new cases we're seeing.
Elliott says some areas are seeing decreases, including Ottawa. The numbers based on just under 29,000 tests. The number of tests also down day over day. I'm Irene Precklett.
This is 680 News. One young man is dead. A second charge with first-degree murder following a deadly shooting outside an LCBO in East End. 680's Mark Douglas is there. A 21-year-old is dead. A 20-year-old
was 24
first-degree murder.
22 this afternoon.
Two men were
That was
fighting
21.
inside an LCBO about physical distancing.
I know
That was
lots of
around
people that
5:30
got
Sunday
different information on different
Detective
IDs
Amanda
that
Thornton
have lived in the same province of Canada their whole life. I know people from other countries that just through circumstance have two passports or two sets of IDs.
was about is still under investigation. People inside the store were wearing masks, including the suspect. And
Oh, so it wasn't about
It
that.
happened at this
It was
LCBO
about
in
masks.
Danforth near Victoria Park. The
Don't get
argument began
close.
inside the store at the
BGC.
checkout. No more than 4
Don't
minutes
get
later, the
close.
young man was shot outside. The accused man drove off with other people, but they were pulled over several
Drove off
minutes
with other
later.
people. What does that
The
mean?
accused and the victim were not known to each other. On Danforth near Vic Park, I'm Mark Douglas.
You push this fuck around.
America votes 2020.
Yaku. It was Jacob, now it's
We are
Yaku.
in the home stretch
That means
in
somebody
the US
corrected
election
them.
campaign. Donald Trump and Joe
Is
Biden.
it Israeli or
both
Persian? Because they're both
barnstorming the
Caucasian, right?
battleground states over the next few days. 680 Stuart McGinn joins us live with the
Food
latest.
America.
Stuart.
Yeah, you picked a fucking name out
Yes,
of it.
Legenda, there's only more rallies from here. The big difference, though, the
French?
protocols being followed by each campaign. Joe Biden's
Come on,
events
give
continue to
details.
limit capacity.
I want to see just like the 20s and 30s,
President
buddies'
Donald
brains
Trump
all over the
continues
fucking
to poke fun
sidewalk
at
on the
as he packs
newspaper at
his
4
rallies
o'clock
with
in the morning.
supporters.
You know what, there used to be stars on the top of the newspaper? They get 5 editions a fucking day.
Biden and Trump actually took to the same key battleground state today.
They come down to Pennsylvania.
Vice presidential candidates busy too. In Minnesota, sitting Vice President Mike Pence supported peaceful protests but condemned the violence that took place after the death of George Floyd. Meanwhile, on daytime talk show The View, Biden's running mate Kamala Harris spent time
You
addressing
bad
Trump
niggers!
after he called her
Bad
a monster.
apples, bad goop, bad chink, bad dog. How far off am I now? How far off am I now?
In election polls, but
It
Trump
went from
insisting those
it went from
numbers
9
are
minutes or almost
fabricated.
9
Reporting live,
minutes.
Stuart begins 680
Because
News.
14 seconds is less than a quarter of a minute.
The Ontario government revealing
What's your
today
employment
it'll
punch
table
card
budget
clock?
next
It's 15
Thursday.
minutes,
Here's
isn't it?
680's Richard Southern.
The
Isn't
budget
it?
is expected to reveal how the
Whatever
province
time
will
you actually
deal
sign
with
in,
the
they round to the
economic
nearest 15,
fallout
don't
from
they? Or they used
COVID-19. But with so many unknowns about the
Down to
virus,
7 minutes. It was almost 7 minutes.
we'll have to provide a
The last time they were talking about it,
different
which wasn't.
outlooks.
We will account for this by including 3 plausible economic scenarios in our outlook on November 5th.
The big question with the budget will be just how the
Well,
poor
that's
government
almost 8
plans to
minutes.
tackle the.
But it was not almost
number
9. It almost
now
8. I'm
has.
pretty sure I
It's
heard
running
almost
a
7 of them.
projected $38.5 billion
So
deficit.
much crap in
Premier
the
Ford said today he's not in favor of tax hikes. Refunding the
Alright, so since you're just going to talk shit the next 20 minutes until CRI comes
wants to
on.
see an austerity budget or a
What would happen in this market? What happened in this market? Forget an open air prison like in grapes growing. You might go for a walk and pick some grapes and come back. You don't need more than this many, do you?
Black and green, black and green,
While speaking to the Canadian Chamber of Commerce via video conference,
what is the
Prime
Chamber
Minister
of Commerce?
Justin Trudeau signaled his
We hold
government
court on the court
will immediately set a new fiscal anchor as it rolls out more COVID-19 spending. Trudeau says the pandemic's been too disruptive to commit to a strict budgetary goal in its next update expected in November. Instead, he suggested details will come after the crisis is over. Now, the last official government estimate of this year's budget deficit was $343 billion back in July, and various new spending announcements will likely put the figure closer to $380 billion when Krista Freeland delivers her first fiscal update since taking over as finance minister. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker. Gas prices are next.
The Micmac count money differently. This is money to me. I want to go back and get more.
680 News. 2020 has taught us to make room in our
So,
lives for
most
what
of them
matters most,
are
which
basically
is people.
dry.
We're making more room for people, less room for junk.
I'm certainly
I
doing
should
that.
say
How
a
so? When I
lot of
watched
what I
our junk
grabbed
team
is
haul away a
basically
bunch
dry
of
already on
junk
the
last week,
vine.
I never felt more free.
Less junk, more happiness.
Less junk, more happiness.
1-800-GOT-JUNK is full service junk removal.
We make
More junk, double happiness.
All you have to do is point
Call me at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
or visit me at
The
1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
junk is a Chinese sailing
Now,
vessel.
the
No?
Big City News gas price update. Pro predicting the price of gas won't change at midnight, so we'll hold it just under
I
99
saw
cents
both
a
of them.
liter.
I only see one.
This truck has been around.
How did it move?
Gets the job done.
I saw it too. I saw one.
Yeah, like a couple of bikes. Right. You can really load it up. Oh, for sure. This one time I had a bunch of little plants back there. Impressive. Well, but you could use a more capable truck. Une de même que les
Then about one. Let's take the Firebird Radio on. Best hits you ever heard cruising along.
She's okay, but you know Diana Crawl.
Now I got the right
I'm
idea.
joking. Someone's gonna shoot me. They stabbed me with a wine glass. Oh, brother, well, this stuff.
And every little heart is trembling with the right idea. When you touch me, baby, you're making how it's gonna drive me crazy. See forever as a definite
Sick in the head.
Le président Emmanuel Macron, il a été assez mesuré, c'est clair. Il parle en France d'une minorité qui conteste les lois, les valeurs de la République.
Oh, fuck off. Okay, see, we're not missing. I try to bring you what's relevant. And sometimes they only run it once, and I can't get a recording of it. And sometimes there's nothing to play. So I'm going to eat my food and flip the toilet. I got nothing.
Green bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana.
People complain. And this is what they get greedy about. Come on. What's wrong with you? Everybody. Oh, you can tell how much money there is to use for 50-50. Rice, you know, it's a little bit less meat, a little bit less percentage of it. But it's good they don't mix it, because some people don't want to eat it.
We even bustin', you wanna stay with the heaven. I'm about to like you, get the fact I'm fucking white. I got that heart that's soft that puts that fucking white. In my kitchen, serving beans, feeding addiction. My money straight, this life I leave you fucking bitchin'. I went from flags to black and green like LA Crips. But we ain't done, this puzzle piece can't need a fish.
Black bandana,
That's a
black
split
and green
infinite.
bandana,
It's a split infinite right there.
black and green
We wave
bandana,
them flags.
black bandana, black and green bandana, black
There should be
bandana,
wave
black and
flags
green
like LA
bandana,
Crips.
black bandana, black
That's a split
bandana,
infinite.
black and green, black bandana, black
Sentence means
bandana,
the exact
black
same
and
thing,
green,
but
black
it confuses you
bandana,
if you're
black
not paying attention.
bandana, black and green, black
It's not the-
bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black and green bandana.
This is
Black
sea salt with
bandana, black and
mathematics.
green bandana, black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black and green bandana, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green.
Chickpeas and corn and beans. These are kidney beans. These ones, and then are these called black beans or something? I'm pretty sure.
Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black
They get the same 100-ounce things. Well, this one's for all of us, but the same 100-ounce things. You can eat anything in this size. 100 ounces. 100 fluid ounces, 2.84 liters. So it's 28.4. No, it'd be 28.35. No. Product of Egypt. You know what? I need this to show me out. I'm not going to take anything from home. I'll jab you right in the ball ties and keep eating. I swear to God, whatever you got coming. The Canadian forces said they're not going to release the COVID numbers in real time because what adversaries will do to it. These businesses terrified that all these documents are going to be put to a committee. I'm simplifying. Because there's all sorts of shit they consider confidential business information, and outside countries might find it out. Whatever you think you're going to pull off on Ontario, Canada, Toronto, yes, sir. On you, like we've done the pussy this morning. What are you going to do? Pop, 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 pop. I'm afraid of jail in my country, yeah? Really? Really? Oh, we're just pussies here. Even the IDF will extradite your ass back here, eh? You only serve a year, but they will. Sky high, committing better crimes. High crimes and better times. Do I look like I'm pretending to eat rice? Do I look like I'm pretending? There's a certain way it's supposed to clump and when it tastes right. You keep racing down that hill. And it wouldn't fucking do it 5 minutes ago until I mixed it all with the vegetables and shit. What I personally love about eating with chopsticks, you're a lot less likely to choke because you put too much in your mouth. I mean, no put in your mouth falls off. You killed the woman from the cranberries. Fully clothed in the bathtub, drowned. That makes a lot of sense. She's the opponent of a rapper, right? Really. But if you can say they're killing all the rappers, and you know, Constantine report. You got the Constantine report. Because they think that the musicians influence the culture. Just so you're aware, just little pieces of meat through the whole thing. These two will take care of me. Metric. A datum would be a metric. Norm would it not? Speaking of which, why was data called data, which is a multiple? And lore was called lore. That'd be a piece of lore would be one. I'm going out there in 10 minutes though. That is taking a while to get here. They must be having some issue at some intersection, but it's not this one. Oh, there's more. What the fuck is going on? Do I sit down? I'll sit down so for sure they come. I'm gonna go out there and 10 now. I'll have to do something to do. Smoke the joint after. What is going on? they're coming up to this intersection or not? Oh, that's the fire supervisor. And I can hear another one coming. Okay, that's what's going on. I can hear 3 different ones. Is that what it is? These people get time to respond to a robbery of a coffee shop. Are they gone already? Yes, they left with all the money for this. Well, it's not a priority anymore. Fire truck. Excuse me. They ever hung a horn unless some idiots in front of them? Piece of bread. One time it was good.
Sit your little bitch ass down, nigga.
Please, this street.
My technique's not perfect.
Taking helicopters down with a little laser. And the cannon, I'm holding bigger than fucking mega. Yaga, the liquor for the shots to make you stagger. To my little brother, cause I
You're
get
trying to
my
grab
partners.
each piece like this, it's gonna drive you crazy. That's not how it works.
It's not like rock. These are enemy lines, nobody can cross. I'm a slave for rappers and in a battle with parts of the strip of tits. 4 clips like a bitch's weight diction. Murder gang sick shit. Got me reading the words as of my victim lipsticks. Kitchen sick murders. Niggas know I'm running through the streets of beef. Like the hamburger with the burner. No food surfing. Yeah, still M3G reppin'. Man, sitting in the vehicle. Plotting on people. Taking your proud possession like a reaper. Kneeling with the hammer. Call it Tim Tebow. Holding on the hammer. Call it Home Depot. Everything I'm doing is illegal. Everything I'm doing is illegal. Kneeling with the hammer. Call it Tim Tebow. Holding on the hammer. Call it Home Depot. I'm at the bar ordering a Heineken. Waiting for the scene to fall back. I was timing him. Fronting him a double set of check me round 9 and 10.
Me, I'm sitting in the fucking back.
Pop together live again. Rifles like the Irishman. Used to come and bench. But Charlie was a rider man. Nigga tried to end me for the money. Kind of fireman to put my fucking flamer. Go ahead and
these guys don't know when the inspector's coming. How come they'll wear the mask one day out of the middle of the week and then not?
Murder gang, crow punch dogs and get for photos. You lose. Tell you what kind of like 2 shoes. Listen, Junior receives to the higher shooters to whack you. Right now, I'd rather smack you.
3 times now, crackhead Popeyes got in my face.
The kids are hard to put a wonder, call him Matthew. Murder gang squad in effect. I set it up to win no box. You back to follow my dialect. My number, you ain't died yet. That judge ain't fired yet. By the end of this track, the motherfucker Biden. That bitch no cages in the cup before they fasten it.
He still thinks I think he's Irish.
In the spot, nigga, known for the kill shot. Cause I'm the nigga that shot Jack and chill out the hilltop.
Or his dad, or whoever the fuck influenced him all the hell. Maybe he was born here, so the point. He's culturally South African. Everybody talks to South African. Talks to one white guy because he's forced to work with him. But he makes a point to me of how close he is to that guy. That guy don't like you because he don't like anybody that breathes oxygen. So I know it ain't like South African trying to get not to be. I'll smack the right body. I just told you I had sick of
Everything I'm doing is illegal. Kneeling with the hammer. Call it Tim Tebow. Pulling out the hammer. Call it Home Depot.
I don't know who makes these, but these are dumb as hell. This is the dumbest thing in the world. What is this? What the fuck purpose is this? I don't know who makes those, but whoever it is, they don't serve a purpose. This is the perfect thing. Need this in Florida. Corn and beans and so that's
Nothing on my wrist.
Oh, and there's some type of green spice. I don't know if it's oregano, thyme, whatever, all up in the
Don't you get the gist? I got the confidence, don't need a brand on my chest. Hey, I know what my value is.
Why you do? I got sickle cell. What the fuck?
Hey, look at 21 Savage and Bill Gates. skate. Hey, rap
You're supposed to be here to the vulnerable people. How come you serve all white people and you kiss their asses, bro? Ah, because you're Guyanese pretending to be.
Nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. I'm the opposite of Microsoft. I'm big and hard.
Okay, but
Let that resonate.
just to let you know, everybody up here is going to call you a nigga.
I got that lyricism sprinkled with a lot of flow. I made my sauce authentic on a chopping board. Baby, it's spicy, be careful. Don't check the bottle too much, be gentle. It's kinda high on the Scoville level. Don't burn your tongue, don't get it in your eyes. I turned reality
Notice the container's full to the top.
dream. I turned a lucid dream into whipped cream.
So I'm just filling a different stream, different place. These are the cheapest containers you can get, also the most recyclable. Easiest to recycle, well, except for that cardboard piece. Them plastic ones cost a shitload more money. There's 150 pieces in the 150 sets in the box, right? They spend all sorts of money getting oh, we're going to switch to takeout service. Yeah, so you're not spending the food no more, right? Now they're down to cardboard boxes, which they ostensibly can't stand because it burns down trees or whatever. But notice, every time I come in with them cardboard things or anything from the stop, it's filled this thick, or it's filled to here. I got a half a spoon of fucking spaghetti. What did I get yesterday? One piece of chicken in the corner here. Oh, this is shawarma chicken. Now I see a cabbage ground up and one piece of chicken. No offense, if you can survive off cabbage, good for you. Why are you selling it as shawarma chicken if it's a big pile of cabbage? Right, that don't make no sense. I'm not complaining. I just want to know what's the point. Oh, we serve more meals that way. You're giving guys 4 of the fucking things and they're throwing the garbage on the floor. It don't matter if it's recyclable or reusable. These guys have housing. Why are you throwing it on the ground?
Then you wouldn't look fat as a Cadillac. Baby, looking like a snack. I can see you did some squats on the squat rack. I don't need a beat, I don't really need a track. You can be my producer with dream. Into whipped cream, cash rules, nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. Baby, keep your pants on, zip tight, blocked off. This is not the time for you to rack it up. We be in court, the judge is getting cross. You robbed the bank, baby, you took your mask off. You took 100K and left it at my front door.
What did you fucking do, you idiot?
Nice job. Cause you know I bail you out no matter what the cost. I need that flavor,
again, as soon as I look up. As soon as I'm looking at the screen, flash, 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 flash. You're not impressing nobody else. You are affecting literally nothing. Wow, let's watch the RAM just skyrocket for no reason. Let's watch that RAM just skyrocket for no reason. Beijing hour. Fucking right. There's more meat. I think that is turkey. I'm not sure. Ground turkey.
绿叶子 green leaf. All in today's Chinese studio.
We're changing these up later.
中国人
See what 846 is for a second. Probably be the same.
the Chinese people.
中国人. It's actually composed of 2 words. The first one defines the second. We can also say 美国人, the American, or 加拿大人, the Canadian.
Exactly.
How would you say China?
您好，请问您是哪国人？
我是中国人. Next, we come to the word 女孩子 girl. 女 the third tone, meaning woman or female.
女
孩子 is child.
孩子
So together, 女孩子.
女孩子. Then if you told me what man is in Chinese, I would know the Chinese way of saying boy.
Man in Chinese is 男 nan, the second tone.
男. So boy in Chinese would be 男孩子. Hey, and by the way, the tone of nan is similar to the Chinese character nan, south, right?
Yes, exactly. 203房间
This
room
becomes relevant
number
because some of these
203.
words, the Chinese symbols, the meanings don't mean nothing.
I know
when it's put side to side to make
means
another
2,
word from English.
ling, 0, and
Like Toronto
is 3.
means nothing to do with what you think.
房间 means room.
房间. So room 203 is 203房间.
小郑，记住
Arlington
每
is
个
20
房间。
我住203房间。
Now here are some more examples. 红
If I mix
苹
this
果
up, it won't dry out.
red
in the fridge.
apple.
红苹果.
红 meaning red.
红
苹果 apple.
苹果.
红苹果 red apple.
红苹果. Yeah, Jim, could you tell me how you say green in Chinese?
Well, in Chinese, it's 绿.
There's no racial undertone to it whatsoever. Because they don't know what the
Let
fuck
me
we're
tell
talking
you
about.
one more word. 叶子 means leaf.
叶子. So together it's 绿叶子, green leaf.
Yes. 绿叶子。
我喜欢吃红苹果，你呢？
我也喜欢吃红苹果。那是什么？
那是一片绿叶子。
Keywords reminder. Today, we've learned the phrases that are composed of two parts, and the first word modifies the second one. 中国人 the Chinese person. 女孩子 girl. 男孩子 boy. 203房间 room number 203. 红苹果 red apple. 绿叶子 green
Well, with that, we come to the end of this edition of Chinese Studio. Now,
You know
our
I can see
question
you,
of the day is,
Like, I'm not
how do the
bullshitting. I
Chinese
can
say
see the
girl?
screen.
It's
We can
just
see
one
207.
word, so it shouldn't be
Yeah,
too hard.
so when I say, oh, do it now.
In Chinese characters.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Class is over for today. 明天见.
明天见.
Oh, you're going to look schizophrenic. Yeah, well, that's not a thing. So
Join the
nobody
most
cares.
popular Chinese
Literally
language
nobody
learning
cares.
page on Facebook.
Well, being
By
labeled
searching for
schizophrenic,
CRI
never read
Learn
a book,
Chinese.
don't realize
It's a
it's
quick
not
yet fun
diagnosed.
way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page. The world opens with you.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the
Whoa,
world.
it started right on the same minute, eh? Same second, I should say.
Now the news. I'm Zhou Fang. The 19th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China has started its 5th plenary session in Beijing. President Xi Jinping delivered a work report on behalf of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee. He also explained a draft document of the CPC Central Committee's proposals for formulating the 14th Five-Year Plan for Economic and Social Development and future targets for 2035. China has decided to impose sanctions on U.S. enterprises involved in the latest arms sales to Taiwan. Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and Raytheon are among the list of U.S. businesses that will face Chinese sanctions. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says the sanctions also target individuals and entities playing a vital role in the process. It also says the U.S. arms sales to Taiwan seriously violate the One China principle and the Three China-U.S. joint communiques, as well as undermine China's sovereignty and security interests.
People in the world think it's a
Another
joke when you
26
say
people
what
in
Israel
Kashgar Prefecture in Xinjiang have tested positive for the coronavirus. All are asymptomatic cases from the prefecture's Shufu County, where the very first asymptomatic case of the latest regional outbreak was detected. On October 24th, a 17-year-old female villager from Shufu County was confirmed as an asymptomatic carrier of the virus during routine nucleic acid testing. The positive test led to mass testing across the prefecture, and over 130 people tested positive the following day. The 26 newly found virus carriers have all come into close contact with asymptomatic people detected earlier. The Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Economic Leaders Meeting will be held virtually on November 20th. The meeting, to be held virtually for the first time due to the COVID-19 situation, will be participated in by leaders of APEC economies. Malaysian officials say the meeting will also see the launch of the region's post-2020 vision, the key policy document that is set to replace BOGO goals, which reach maturity at the end of this year. India's COVID-19 infections have topped 7.9 million. The disease has so far killed more than 119,000 people in the country. Currently, there are over 653,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. In all, over 7.1 million people have been discharged from hospital. Indian authorities' focus has been on ramping up COVID-19 testing facilities across the country. The Australian state of Victoria will dramatically scale back COVID-19 restrictions this week. The move comes as the region recorded its first day of zero new infections and deaths for several months on Monday. From Wednesday, restaurants, hotels, cafes, and bars, as well as retail businesses, will reopen to the public. Home visits will be allowed and limits on leaving the household will be lifted. In announcing the changes, Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews praises local residents for helping suppress the pandemic and achieve the first day of zero infections and deaths since June 9th. The Spanish Prime Minister has announced a nationwide state of alarm to curb the spread of COVID-19. Pedro Sanchez made the announcement after Spain became the first European Union member to pass the 1 million case mark. The state of alarm starting Sunday has an original duration of 15 days, but Sanchez says his government aims to keep it in effect until May next year. It will restrict movement from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. for all regions except the Canary Islands. While social meetings will be limited to 6 in the entire country, but the authorities will not impose a strict lockdown as the one introduced in March, and the country's borders will remain open. Authorities say 17 Taliban militants are dead in airstrikes hitting Taliban positions in 2 eastern Afghan provinces. No civilian was affected during the sorties. The Afghan National Defense and Security Forces have been continuing cleanup operations across Afghanistan since early this year. Daily violence and clashes remain in the country. And that's the news. I'm Zhou Fang.
What you mean?
Today, provide you with in-depth news and experts.
Oh, shit. Watch it freeze the fuck up. This one's gonna be a video. Yeah, I gotta go.
China once again urges the United States to abide by its commitment.
You know what? Listen to the radio on the world today if you want.
Nations in Chile ask voters back free-riding constitution. And Jack Ma urges financial regulation reform ahead of Antwerp's biggest IPO in history. You're listening to World Today, a news program with a different perspective. I'm Zhao Ying. In the coming hours, we'll bring you in-depth analysis of these news and other stories within following. To listen to this episode again or to catch up on previous episodes, you can download our podcast by searching World Today.
No, seriously, this is the equivalent of throwing rotten fruit at a girl. Because you don't like the fact that she don't like
The 19th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China started its 5th plenary session in Beijing on Monday. General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee Xi Jinping delivered a work report. The meeting is discussing the 14th five-year plan for economic and social development and future targets for 2035. Created every 5 years since 1953, the five-year plan is a major feature of China's governance system, setting growth targets and defining development policies. For an in-depth preview of the meeting, as well as China's next five-year plan, my colleague Zhao Yan spoke with Wang Dan, chief economist of Hansen Bank, and Anna Tangyan, who is an author and columnist. So then actually a lot of people might hear this term, China's 40th five-year plan. Can you explain to our listeners, especially those international listeners, why should they pay attention to, and how does this week's meeting impact people's daily life?
China's 5-year plan has been basically the most important plan every 5 years. It sets out those long-term targets for China. It doesn't really address the immediate urgent needs, but it will address some of the fundamentals. Like in the last 13th 5-year plan, it basically has set up the stage for mass innovation, for Belt and Road Initiative. And this time, I believe there will be some major change in China's agenda for how it maintains growth. It basically needs to change from an investment-driven model to a consumer-driven, consumption-driven model, and how China would approach other economies in the world. So it's going to affect what industries will be prioritized and the migration patterns.
So Anna, so China is designing its plans for the next 5 years, but this is no ordinary year this year, right? COVID-19 and the ongoing China-US trade war have impacted China's economy, which has bounced back from the first quarter drop, but growth is still slower than last year. So how will this next 5-year plan respond to all these challenges, and what policies will be unrolled to reflect this new reality?
Well, get used to the term dual circulation, because this is really what the government is rolling out. They're basically saying continuation of the 13th 5-year plan, more emphasis on internal consumption, but it's going to be much larger because of the situation with the U.S. I mean, 5 years ago, we had a very, very, very different situation internationally. Things were much better with the U.S. There was still some fraying around the edges, but nothing like you've seen today. And the hostility shown by Donald Trump in terms of this attacks on Huawei and all the technology, on the even on the security side. So it's been a pretty much 360-degree pressure. This means that China is going to go more towards protecting its supply chain, making sure that it has what is necessary for its internal consumption. But at the same time, the second part of the dual circulation idea is that you want to attract more foreign, not only expertise, but investment. So you're going to see a lot of upgrades to how China is going to try to entice people to come here, not only to invest, but also to live.
China is seeking a dual circulation model, which essentially means continuing to open up in terms of foreign investment and tech, and also boosting the domestic demand. So then how do you explain this dual circulation model, and how exactly is it supposed to work?
The dual circulation model to me is mainly to address the threat from the US or the threat from potential decoupling with the US. Because now China has probably the most powerful supply chain in the world. It can produce basically any industrial output within the border of China. So there's not much a problem with producing stuff, but there is a problem selling stuff. So now the US and Europe are actually putting a lot of pressure on China to change its working conditions, to join the trade deals that initiated by them. But for China, there are a lot of risk of letting go its own industrial policy. So at this point, I think it's very important for China to stress that it's not really anti-globalization or anti-foreign investment. It's really a strategy about just to find alternative plans if something goes wrong with the US. So now I've heard a lot of companies talking about maybe their services are no longer needed for their Chinese customers since they're fully foreign owned. But actually, there's no such language or idea from this dual circulation strategy. And I think China needs to be more clear about it means.
So Anna, so China's digital economy has also grown exponentially over the last 5 years. So what role will the government play in supporting in this industries, for example, 5G, AI, Internet of Things, etc., etc.?
Well, there's a number of goals. One is to progress and create the future. The second one is to shore up these supply chains. We've already seen, Huawei cannot purchase chips from American manufacturers. They've had to hoard them, that type of thing. So they need to basically create an indigenous supply chain, and I think they'll be well on their way to it. The clock is ticking. There's about 2 years left for Huawei, depending on what they do. If they sell off their phone businesses, etc., it would be a little bit different. But they're still going to face headwinds when it comes to the rollout of 5G. I think China's just going to continue and say, look, we'll continue to offer it. It's at a better price. But you're going to see markets changing. Already, ASEAN is the #1 trade partner for China, and this moving towards regionalization, a more regionally focused economy is continue. Despite, I agree with Dandan that a lot of this is about the U.S., but there's also headwinds from Europe, which has identified China as a kind of in a somewhat threatening role as a competitor, etc. Not as much as the U.S., but there's a lot of kind of negative feeling towards China. I think that probably goes away as people in the cold light of day say to themselves, who actually was able to manage their business during this period of COVID-19, and China is going to emerge as the gold standard.
Mm-hmm. And then, so how do you think will the 5-year plan factor in what some are calling this tech Cold War between U.S. and China, which has impacted business like ZTE, like Huawei, for example? How will the 5-year plan foster innovation in the tech arena?
The 5-year plan will have some very ambitious goal about raising its self-sufficiency in producing core technologies such as chips. I think there will be a lot more fiscal investment into this direction. We'll see more government-backed fund directly targeting leading companies in those emerging industries. But for technology, the decoupling is happening as we speak. It's becoming this new reality that probably most companies have to adjust to it, since eventually it is the companies, the corporate sector, that will bear most of the cost. They need to develop a standard targeting the US, then they need to develop another standard targeting China. I think people would adjust. It's just during this process, the corporate sector will bear most of the costs.
And Aina, so how do you think will this 5-year plan foster the innovation in the tech arena? Actually, there are some cautions, right? China's race for the self-sufficiency in the chip maker, the semiconductor chips, and supplying vast funding can entice some non-expert companies with the all too predictable failures or waste. And recently, the National Development and Reform Commission just asserted that companies with no experience, no technology or talent should stop blindly rushing into the industry, right?
Absolutely. I mean, a government official was down in Shanghai who was saying, look, we don't want speculators. We want people who can produce something for the real economy. And that's very important. People are rushing into areas they have no understanding or knowledge. Money is flowing into them. And unfortunately, a lot of them could wind up with nothing because these people don't know what they're doing. But in areas where China is really leading it. I mean, this virtual yuan is going to be a complete game changer, not only for China, but internationally, especially with countries that deal with China. A lot of the problems with money flows coming in and out will be, in essence, solved by that. And it will increase the speed at which money flows within the system without having to do it. Well, at the same time, giving the Chinese government a tremendous amount of ability to fine-tune the economy as it goes along. So something like that, and coupled with looking at the next, the future, not just worrying about what things. Why create factories that are doing something with etching chips into silicone when you know that quantum computing is coming down the line, and this would require a different architecture than you currently have. Doesn't it make more sense to leap ahead to the future and own that rather than competing with existing facilities and things like that? So I think you're going to see a lot more emphasis on the next generation as they try to solve a lot of these things. Things like Harmony, where Huawei has developed their own Google alternative. These are the things that people should be watching.
And then, so we know that the final 5-year plan will be announced at the 2 session actually in the March 2021. So what happens to the plan between this meeting and then, and what sort of consensus building goes on before the plan is finalized?
I think there is more public opinion collection than people thought there might be. So there is a feedback mechanism, and I know it will go through a lot of large companies, but also private companies or some sort of industrial clubs. So if there are a strong opposition towards certain potential proposition, there will be some adjustments. And I've heard also a lot of concerns from academia about including this word dual circulation in a 5-year plan. I wonder that if that will eventually be reflected in the final document, because this dual circulation, it does sound like more of an emergency plan, not like a long-term plan. If it's addressing the direct risk from the U.S. about the supply chain, moving public supply chain out of China, then it probably shouldn't be included as the 5-year target goal. Eventually, this document has to address the fundamentals about the economic drivers of China's economy, and that's the most important.
That's Wang Dan, chief economist at Hansen Bank, and Anna Tungin, author and columnist, speaking with my colleague Zhao Yan. Coming up, France recalls ambassador from Turkey amid rising tensions with Erdogan. This is World Today. Stay with us.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn is your home for everything you want to know about China.
The latest news in China and everything China related from around the world.
Everything can focus, all in one place, bringing you vital information for your business and travel.
Chinese culture, language learning, and more.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn.
ChinaPlus.cri.cn. Your portal into today's Middle Kingdom.
You're listening to World Today. I'm Zhao Ying. France has recalled its ambassador to Turkey for consultations following comments by the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who suggested his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron needed mental health treatment for pledging to defend secular values and fight radical Islam. Macron has spoken out forcefully on these issues after a French teacher was murdered for showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad in class. Erdogan's remarks are the latest sign of a growing backlash in the Islamic world, including calls for a boycott of French goods. For more, we're now joined by Alistair Crook, a former British diplomat in the Middle East and director of the Conflicts Forum. So, Alistair, first, what do you make of Emmanuel Macron's reaction following the murder of the French teacher Samuel Paty? Because many accused him of overreaction, even of racism. What do you think?
Well, I think there are about 5 million Muslims here living in France, and there is a certain fear amongst many French people of the Muslim community and the fact that they are, if you like, almost separate in what they know as the banlieue, the neighborhoods of Paris. They're almost no-go areas. So there is a certain amount of anxiety. And I think as Macron is facing difficult electoral prospects, he wanted to appeal to the sort of the consensus French thought about the threat from Islam. But I think what it was seen, so in a sense, what many ordinary French saw, and here where we have a sort of split screen. For many French, it seemed as if Erdogan was justifying or validating the killing of the school teacher who had talked about the posters of Charlie Hebdo and Prophet Muhammad in a derogatory way. But from the point of view of Erdogan, the focus is different. It's on the language used by Macron when he talked about liberating Islam, liberating it and secularizing it. Now, there's a long history to this. Europe has for many years been trying to sort of turn, if you like, Islam into a secular, more compliant form that would fit in more easily with secular Western values. And for Erdogan, therefore, this is the threat of describing all of Islam as potentially terrorist, of demonizing Islam. And Erdogan is trying to, if you like, lead Islam and to provide a leadership which is a rival leadership to that of the Saudis in favor of Islam and support. And there's also a feeling of anger, I think, in the Muslim world because of the hypocrisy. Because all of these extremists these jihadists, and it seems that perhaps there was killed with one, of course have been supported by Europe. They've been happy to support them when they thought this would bring about the fall of Assad. That they have been supporting through Saudi Arabia, through other Gulf states, the funding and the moving of jihadist groups in order to overthrow President Assad of Syria. But then when this happens at home, they declare all of Islam being the problem. So I think, you have this very split screen effect, where in France it's seen as Erdogan acting irrationally and justifying this terrible murder of the school teacher. He was beheaded, and it was a grisly affair. But then on the other hand, you have the screen for many Muslims who dislike the way the West tries to reform Islam, create a European Islam that is not Islam, which is quite different, which is a secular form of Islam, rather as the stages of Christianity went through in the wake of the Treaty of Westphalia.
Right, and as we know, earlier this month, Macron has pledged to fight Islamist separatism, which he said was threatening to take control in some Muslim communities around France. But do you think he's going to achieve what he's hoping to achieve with this iron fist policy?
No, I don't. I think actually it's going to exacerbate these tensions, because it's not that, in fact, that the Muslim community separated themselves in this way. In fact, in many ways, the Muslim communities, as they came to Europe, have suffered a form of what I call soft apartheid and have been separated by the state. When Muslim communities first took root in London and in Paris, many of them were educated Muslims who'd come from countries in the Middle East with their families, and the thing they wanted most of all was actually to assimilate into European society, to keep their values, but to assimilate and be part of the Western society. Now we have a difference. Because of the tensions, because of the wars in the Middle East, many of these younger immigrants and the people who occupy the values are radicalized and despise, if you like, liberal Western values and the whole culture. Just as you have in America, some of the woke young people say, that inherently the West is racist, is oppressive. You are having Muslims in some of the cities of Europe saying rather the same thing, that the West is inherently and in its nature is both racist and oppressive and colonialist, and that Macron is sounding like one of these when he says he wants to liberate us from our Islam.
Right, but earlier you've mentioned about the elections in France, which many believe might be a factor behind Macron's move. But what do you make of Erdogan's comments that Macron needs medical health treatment? Is he also under his own domestic pressure to try to present himself as a leader of the Sunni Muslim world?
Well, of course. You're quite right that Turkey is in a certain amount of crisis domestically, and we're talking here about an economy that is in deep trouble. Yes, there is, but this is something in which he does have popular support. He has support across the board for the sense of a sort of, if you like, a new Ottoman footprint across the Middle East and the Caucasus and Asia. And one of the reasons I think for his very strong language was to say very clearly to Europeans, don't think you can just sort of contain this. What's happening in the Eastern Mediterranean is very much because where the oil exploration has become a hot issue is because Erdogan and Turkey believes that the West and Greece and the European Union and Egypt are trying to marginalize Turkey and push it out of its, if you like, its own neighborhood in the Eastern Mediterranean and deny it any possible gas or energy supplies in that area. So I think there is a sense in which he is appealing to nationalism, but it's also one that has a real resonance throughout Turkey. And because of the Turkic communities that stretch from Germany right through to the borders of China and Russia. As you know, the Uyghurs are ethnically Turkic.
What about the reactions from other parts of the Arab world to Macron's policy, and what do you think that would mean to France and also to other European countries which are already struggling with refugee crisis?
That's what I'm saying is that I think that it is going to make it much harder because Muslims, even as I say, educated Muslims, believe that actually what Erdogan, what Macron and the Europeans are asking for in this sort of European Islam is for them to give up their values and become secular. And then in their value system, in Islam, then they are not Muslim. I mean, they're asking them, in a sense, to become apostate. Penalty in Islam for apostasy is death. So for them, it's very difficult to say that they can just simply assault secular Western rationalism and keep Islam, because the two really are incompatible. Every Muslim is entrained to fight for social justice and justice as defined by the Quran. And not to do that means you're no longer a Muslim. So these present even, serious, reflective Muslims, present them with difficult choices.
Right, and as you said, the tensions between France and Turkey have risen in recent months over a wide range of issues. Do you think the situation will get worse between the NATO allies?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, because look at the tensions that exist with Azerbaijan and Armenia, and already there's been heated exchanges between the European Union, High Representative and others with Turkey over Turkey's involvement against Armenia, which is a Christian state, and in support of Azerbaijan. So, which is Turkic also, ethnically Turkic. It's a Shi'i state, but it's ethnically Turkic. So he's again moving, if you like, in the direction of expanding a suite of Turkic and Islamic influence by Turkey across the region.
Yes, thank you, Alistair Crook, former British diplomat in the Middle East and director of the Conflicts Forum. You're listening to World Today. Stay with us.
Hello, this is Michael Zhang. Greetings from Los Angeles of the Golden State of California. Thank you today for making me part of your team. I truly enjoyed the debates we had and look forward to many more in the years to come.
Hello, I'm Joya Cid, First Secretary of the Embassy of Chile to China. It's been an honor taking part on your show and telling you about the relationship between Chile and China. Wishing you all the best.
In-depth analysis, valuable insights, expert views, presented by an award-winning team. Today, keeping you well-informed, up-to-date, and ahead of the news.
Hello everyone, this is Zoon Ahmed Khan, journalist from Pakistan, currently based in Tsinghua University. World Today is an excellent initiative to discuss current affairs by including experts from across the globe. I've always enjoyed our thought-provoking discussions and wish the team even more success and impact in the future.
I am Dan Wang, China analyst from the Economist Intelligence Unit. Today is a very fun program. It is a place you hear interesting people discuss global events, social trends, and what is happening in China and in the rest of the world. So friends around the world, hope you can join us.
Oh, I left the window almost shut. You guys probably didn't know that. First set of sirens, underway. Second set of sirens, ambulance, paramedic, SUV, and police SUV.
You're listening to World Today.
Somebody trying to rob the grocery store.
New coronavirus infections are soaring and breaking records this week around the world. And some parts of the world are going back into lockdown against the advice of the World Health Organization.
What do you mean against?
This includes Spain, which is entering a 6-month state of emergency. At the same time, the U.S. saw its highest single-day spike in cases all year. But even with an outbreak infecting people in the office of the vice president, the administration says the U.S. is not going to control the pandemic. Joining us now in the studio to discuss is our Patrick Flannery. Thanks for joining us, Patrick.
Thank you.
So let's start with these remarks made by the White House Chief of Staff to CNN over the weekend. Will help clarify what he said and what he meant by not going to control the pandemic.
Yeah, President Trump's chief of staff, and his name is Mark Meadows, and I'm not as bad as I sound, by the way. Mark Meadows got into an exchange with Jake Tapper on CNN, and it had to do with a vague answer as to how the administration was going to start dealing with these.
Is this going to be the same show? Is this going to be the Beijing hour?
Development policies. China on Monday announced countermeasures against U.S. designation of 6 more Chinese media as foreign missions. The China-based branches of the American Broadcasting Corporation, the Los Angeles Times, Minnesota Public Radio, Bureau of National Affairs, Newsweek, and Feature Story News are required to declare in written form information about their staff, finance, operation, and real estate in China within 7 days.
Whoa.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian also urged Washington to stop political oppression and arbitrary restrictions on Chinese media organizations in the United States. The latest designation by the Trump administration came months after the U.S. announced to treat 4 major Chinese media outlets as foreign embassies. Beijing has announced it will impose sanctions on relevant U.S. enterprises involved in the latest arms sales to Taiwan. The move targets Lockheed Martin, Boeing Defense, and Raytheon, as well as individuals and entities playing a vital role in the process. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said China will take all necessary steps to safeguard its sovereignty and interests. The latest sales plan approved by Washington last week include sensors, missiles, and artillery that could have a total value of $1.8 billion. That's all. Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou has begun to attend a 5-day hearing at the British Columbia Supreme Court in Canada. During the cross-examination of witnesses, Meng's lawyers are expected to probe the extent to which U.S. administration officials directed Canadian authorities to engage in a deceptive and improper search, thereby violating a court order and Meng's charter rights. Meng was arrested in late 2018 in Vancouver at the request of the United States, which has been seeking her extradition on fraud charges. Both Meng and Huawei have repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. The United States has imposed fresh sanctions against individuals and entities of Iran's oil sector, doubling down its maximum pressure campaign against Tehran. The move targets the Iranian Ministry of Petroleum, the National Iranian Oil Company, the National Iranian Tanker Company, and some senior officials and executives. Washington claims they've given financial support to Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The sanctions came days after the Trump administration blacklisted Iran's ambassador to Iraq. NASA's Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy has confirmed water on the sunlit surface of the moon for the first time. Paul Hertz is NASA's director of astrophysics. He says this discovery indicates that water may be distributed across the lunar surface and not limited to cold shadow places.
Sophia has found very little water. It's found individual molecules of water surviving on the sunlit surface of the moon. And if you were to gang up all those molecules of water, it would be about 12 ounces of water in a cubic meter of lunar soil.
Sophia is a joint project of NASA and the German Aerospace Center. Hertz says follow-up flights will look for water in additional sunlit locations and during different lunar phases to learn more about how the water is produced, stored, and moved across the moon. The Japanese Prime Minister says greenhouse gas emissions in the country will be cut to zero by 2050. Yoshihide Suga made the announcement when delivering his first policy speech in parliament since taking office. He adds that his immediate focus is the battle against COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister says the government will ensure that vaccines are enough for all people once their safety is confirmed. The British government says traces of COVID-19 can be successfully detected in sewage. A project launched in June has proved that fragments of generic material from the virus detected in wastewater can indicate whether a local community or institution is suffering from an outbreak. Gideon Henderson is the chief scientific advisor at the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. He says the discovery can help identify asymptomatic cases as soon as possible.
They don't know they've got the virus, but they're still shedding it. We can still find it in the wastewater, and we can find it in advance of there being any positive tests in the catchment.
The sewage testing project has now been extended to 44 different sewage plants covering 22% of England. Catchment areas can cover between tens of thousands of people to 4 million. This is Sui live from the Chinese capital. Coming up in business, Ant Group is set to raise over $34 billion from the world's biggest ever IPO.
You're listening to the Beijing Hour.
But this ain't the regular Beijing Hour guy.
Your window
No, it's not. What did you do with one way?
37 minutes past the hour. U.S. stocks tumbled on Monday in thin trade, with the S&P 500 posting its biggest daily decline in 4 weeks. It was due to soaring coronavirus cases and uncertainty about a fiscal relief bill in Washington dimmed the outlook for the U.S. economic recovery. The United States, Russia, and France set daily records for coronavirus infections. The number of hospitalized Americans with COVID-19 jumped to a 2-month high. Travel-related stocks vulnerable to COVID-19 related curbs fell sharply. The S&P 1500 Airlines Index fell about 66%, and cruise line operators Carnival Corp and Royal Caribbean Cruises fell more than that. The energy index tracked more than 3% fall in oil prices. The economically sensitive industrials and financials also posted steep declines among S&P sectors. The big price moves came as trading volume was substantially less than the daily October average. Wall Street's fear gauge hit its highest in more than 7 weeks as uncertainty grew over the November 3rd election. The Dow Jones, S&P 500, and Nasdaq all dropped about 2%. In Europe, the UK's FTSE 100 was down by 1.2%. Germany's DAX decreased 3.7%. In Asia, China stocks closed mixed on Monday, with the benchmark Shanghai Composite Index down 0.8%. The Shenzhen Index closed 0.5% higher. The China-X Index went up 0.7%. Elsewhere, Japan's Nikkei was down 0.1%. Singapore's Straits Times Index dropped 0.6%. Regulatory filings show yesterday that China's Ant Group is set to raise $34.4 billion from the world's biggest ever initial public offering. Ant Group has set the price of its A shares at around $10 per share. The IPO will be the first simultaneous listing in Hong Kong and the Nasdaq-style stock market in Shanghai. The listing eclipses the record set by Saudi Aramco's $29.4 billion float last December and the $25 billion raised in 2014 by its former parent Alibaba Group. Ant Group, previously known as Ant Financial, is Alibaba's fintech arm and the parent company of China's largest mobile payments business, Alipay. Alibaba founder Jack Ma said Saturday that the price is likely to be the world's largest, and it's the first time the pricing of a big tech company has been decided outside of New York. ByteDance is in early stage talks to list its Chinese short video app Douyin in Hong Kong. ByteDance says it's considering listing some of its businesses in Hong Kong, but no final decision has been made. The company is exploring possibilities with investment banks about a standalone IPO for Douyin. Sensor Tower data show that in August, the revenue of Douyin and TikTok, the international version of Douyin in the Apple and Google app stores, was 6.3 times that of last year. TikTok has been under pressure this year as the United States and India issued a ban over alleged national security concerns. The U.S. in August ordered ByteDance to divest its interest in its U.S. TikTok operations within 90 days. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols in late September issued a preliminary injunction to prevent the App Store ban from taking effect. U.S. car maker Tesla announced it will export 7,000 vehicles of made-in-China Model 3 to Europe. The batch of sedans is expected to arrive at the port of Zeebrugge in Belgium by sea at the end of November, before being sold in European countries, including Germany, France, Italy, and Switzerland. Tesla delivered the first batch of made-in-China Model 3 sedans to the public earlier this year, 1 year after the company broke ground on its first overseas plant. For more on this, we're now joined on the line by financial analyst Einar Tangen. Good morning, Einar. First of all, Elon Musk has said the Shanghai factory only aims to serve the domestic market in China, but now it starts to export to other places, including Europe. So what makes the company change its strategy?
Well, good morning. What you have is they've just added $12 billion to their expected outflow in terms of investment and new product market. And they're anticipating that they're going to finance that with free cash flow. Gee, they're not going to the banks. So China becomes a very important market because they're able to reduce costs in China. They're now adopting both the battery pack that's made locally in China and also the motors. That means there's going to be a significant cost reduction. So those cars going overseas represent a new cash flow opportunity.
Broadly, investors are betting on the new energy sector with positive forecasts ahead of an important meeting in which top Chinese officials are getting together to map out a development plan for the country in the next few years. What's your take on this?
I think that's more speculation than anything else. Obviously, Tesla ticks a lot of the box for this dual circulation model, e.g. that there will be outside investment coming into China, new consumption within China. But China has a tremendous number of local car manufacturers, electric ones, and it's not clear that they're going to necessarily favor Tesla over those.
Thank you very much, Einar, as always. And that was our financial analyst, Einar Tangen, talking about Tesla's move to export made-in-China cars to Europe. China's economy has registered tremendous growth so far during the period of its 13th five-year plan from 2016 to 2020. In the period, China's total fiscal revenue amounted to around $10 trillion with an annual growth rate of 5.7%. It's estimated that a figure will reach around $13 trillion by the end of this year. The fifth plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee is reviewing proposals for a development blueprint and make a plan for the future. Authorities in Hainan province have sent letters to inform qualified high-end, urgently needed talents of the tax concession policy. About 10,000 people are expected to benefit from the preferential policies this year. The policies will waive part of effective tax burden over 15% for the high-end personnel in short supply working in a free trade port. Wei Yong is a teacher at iSchool, a local educational institution. He says he was really surprised at the sudden visit of a talent service specialist who delivered him a notification letter.
What surprised me is that I don't even have to declare the tax preference myself, and that simplified procedures save a lot of my time and trouble.
Chinese authorities on June 1st released a master plan for the Hainan Free Trade Port, aiming to build the southern island province into a globally influential free trade port by the middle of the century. China Railway Corporation has announced it will pilot flexible fare services and quiet carriages on the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway starting from December 23rd. The trains on the Beijing-Shanghai high-speed railway went into operation in 2011 with a fixed ticket price, but from December 23rd, prices will be based on the situation of the traffic, carriage, and season. The lowest price of a second-class seat will be 498 yuan, or about $70 down 10% from the normal price, and the highest will be around $90 up 8%. Seasonal tickets will also be sold to encourage frequent travelers. Meanwhile, passengers who are willing to abide by the code of conduct can choose quiet carriages when buying tickets. The passenger says the quiet carriage will be a great choice.
Not everyone is polite. So on the train, some may make loud phone calls, while others may watch TV series with sound on. What can you do with them? Even if you tell them to be quiet, they may not listen, and you have no way to change them.
With a total length about 1,300 kilometers and linking the capital city of Beijing with the coastal economic hub of Shanghai, the Beijing-Shanghai High-Speed Railway is one of the busiest railways in China. The upcoming China International Import Expo will achieve full 5G coverage at its venue, the National Exhibition and Convention Center in Shanghai. The network capacity has increased 1.5 times compared with last year after the venue completed upgrading its 5G facilities. Representative Yang Jiajun from the telecom operator says mobile phones can be independent from the 4G network and enjoy much higher speeds.
This year we achieved standalone mode in the area of network coverage for the National Exhibition and Convention Center for the first time. Standalone mode means that everything is 5G. The download speeds are double the speeds of last year, while the upload speeds have been increased by 2.5 to 3 times compared with last year.
For this year's CIIE, a series of advanced technology
French lessons. And since this is going to happen every fucking time I do anything, I already know. As soon as I try to navigate from this,
that decisions in this assembly be made on a simple majority, which upsets the conservative minority who felt that they were being overlooked there. So there is a question about how rules that are going to be made for deliberation as to how, and also how the Constitution is going to be voted upon. And this is all. There's additional challenges in Chile, which is the fact that broadly left and right are broadly the same. There is a strong sort of 40% that have consistently voted for the right in Chile, over the last 30 years. So that's going to be somewhat of a black barrier, I imagine, to major changes for the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Guy Burton, adjunct professor at the Department of International Affairs at Versailles College in Brussels. This is World Today. We'll be back.
Hello, my name is Harold Buchmann from the Intelligentsia Research Institute for Switzerland. I work also as a managing board member of the Eurasia Forum. I really like Today as it offers a broad view of the daily news, the weekly news of what's important, combined with a big variety of experts and very interesting different aspects from all over the world. If you want a really broad overview of what's going on and how people from different countries evaluate that, then it's really worth listening.
You're listening to World Today. I'm Zhao Ying. Jack Ma, the Chinese billionaire behind Alibaba and Ant Group, has questioned whether international financial regulations are suitable for the Chinese economy and suggested traditional banks should change their pawn shop operating model. He told a forum in Shanghai that China's emphasis on preventing systemic financial risks may have missed the point, while the existing regulatory framework, known as the Basel Accords, may not be the right medicine for China's financial sector. Jack Ma was speaking hours after the pricing for Ant Group's initial public offering in Hong Kong and Shanghai was determined, which is billed as the biggest in history. For more, we are now joined by Elif Alat, Assistant Professor of Practice in Economics at New York University, Shanghai. Thank you for joining us, Professor. Well, Jack Ma said that unlike Europe, where the financial system has been operating for decades, the current risk for China is not its systemic financial risk, but the lack of a functioning financial system. Do you think that's really the case? And what do you make of China's financial system?
Yeah, I think it is true to the point that Jack Ma is speaking, in the sense that China and Europe have extremely different financial systems. And China, by many accounts, including the World Bank, remains a developing country. So obviously there will be different financial regulations necessary for China relative to the rest of the world. But research has found that financial risk in developing countries, in emerging markets like China, sometimes tend to be larger than in more established, mature markets. That was until the 2007-2008 crisis hit Western financial markets. And I think the underlying point seems to suggest a false dichotomy. So I think what you mentioned, a financial system with with systemic financial risk cannot be described as a functioning financial system because it might work in the short run or in the medium run, but in the long run, it could backfire for the development of the country.
Well, he also questioned whether the traditional financial regulations are in need of an overhaul. He said the Basel Accords has been designed by what he called a club of old people, and he questioned whether China needed to follow them. What's your thought on this?
So I think one can agree, and one looks at the research in the academic literature, that regulations need to be strengthened and they need to be changed and overhauled. And it is known, and maybe this is what Mr. Ma is speaking to, Basel II, the Basel II Accord did not prevent the Western financial crisis in 2007-2008. And every time there is new regulation, entities that are being regulated, they try to avoid or evade them. But I think that being said, it is nonetheless important to remind ourselves what the Basel Accords are. So they started in 1988 with the G10 countries as its founding members, but in 2009 they were expanded to the G20 major economies, including China and other emerging markets. So in a sense, it is a voluntary regulatory framework, but as Ward has mentioned in 2002, he suggested that in practice it is de facto binding. So this Basel Accord, when you mentioned China might not need to follow it, in practice it seems to be binding because there are several sanctions for non-compliance and non-implementation. For example, if a bank would like to arbitrage across different locations, if one country does not adopt the Basel regulations, maybe banks would like to go to that country to take advantage of weaker regulations, and this poses some risks for countries that have laxer regulation if it is not complemented by, if you like, different regulations. I think maybe one important thing is, because Mr. Ma is from Ant Financial and Ant Group, currently these Basel Accords are being negotiated by central banks with advice by investment banks and commercial banks, and I think maybe a more practical proposal would be to enlarge the set of institutions to include financial tech firms like Ant Financial and Group to also play a role in designing these new international rules rather than excluding them.
Actually, he argues that the financial system should rely less on the big banks, which he said are like the big rivers, and more on an ecosystem of lakes, ponds, streams, and brooks that carries capital into different corners of the economy. What do you make of this?
So I think the point that Mr. Ma is making is very interesting, and I think it's well taken, because financial innovation should be encouraged, but it also needs to be regulated, as has been seen with the peer-to-peer industry in China, which had a big rise and then a big fall in China. And I think one needs to ask, if you introduce, for example, new innovations, who will bear the risk of this? And if you look in practice at the Basel Accords and the principles behind it, the Basel Accords actually do not apply to non-deposit taking institutions, which means that if these non-bank institutions, non-bank financial institutions, as long as they do not hold a lot of deposits, then the accords actually do not apply directly. But of course, this is different because certain financial tech players in China, they have a very big stake in the financial system as they have a lot of deposits.
And he said the conventional banking businesses in China were run like pawn shops because the banks always demand sufficient collateral to make loans. Do you think that's a problem, and do you think it can be changed?
Yes, I think that point is interesting because banks do require collateral for lending, but I think it is not a either or black and white debate, because the existing banking businesses and their model can be complemented by the innovations that is brought by fintech players like WeChat Pay and Alipay. And I think one has to bear in mind that when we talk about this regulation, the equity that banks need to hold is there for a purpose, because equity is loss absorbing. So when something happens, then the equity holders absorb the loss. And I think this is important because when you ask for banks, who will bear the loss if there is no equity, it will be uninformed retail depositors. That is, for example, people maybe like you and me, which then need to be bailed in by the government bailing out the banks, which happened in 2007, 2008, and that is trying to be, if you like, avoided or averted by these Basel Accords. Of course, they're not perfect, and I think his impetus behind it is questioning and challenging the current regulations, and nobody thinks that they are perfect, and I think they need to be challenged, including by developing countries, thought leaders like Mr. Ma himself.
Well, Jack Ma also said there was too much red tape involved in China's financial regulation, and he said good innovations are not afraid of supervision, but they do fear outdated supervision.
Yes.
Would you agree, and do you feel there's too much red tape that has blocked innovation?
Well, I think if you look in practice of what has happened in China in terms of financial innovation, by some account, there's actually more financial innovation in China than in most, but perhaps not all of the rest of the world. So, and I think in terms of the tradition, the regulators in each country have their own set of principles. And I think, as you know, there's this common saying in China, cross the river by feeding the stones, more just and it's probably to be expected that this model, which has proved to be successful, of course not perfect, but probably will be applied in the future.
Yes, thank you, Olaf Allard, Assistant Professor of Practice and Economics at New York University, Shanghai. And that's all the time we have for this edition of The World Today. A quick recap of today's headlines. France recalls ambassador from Turkey amid rising tensions with Erdogan. Countries imposes new restrictions as COVID-19 cases soar around the world. Celebrations in Chile as voters back rewriting constitution. And Jack Ma urges financial regulation reform ahead of Ant Group's biggest IPO in history. To listen to this episode again or to catch up on previous episodes, you can download our podcast by searching World Today. And for further discussion, please follow us on Twitter at China Plus News. I'm Zhao Ying. Thank you so much for listening.
Pick up there, 20 minutes and nothing. All of a sudden, you gotta lock the fuck up. What the fuck do you pussy holes want? Oh, you just want to move the mouse around yourself and do whatever the fuck you want, right? You fucking retard. Are you that fucking stupid? Yeah, because my clock somehow has to access the internet over and over. I didn't draw the bar up yet, stupid. No, you did that on your own without me even saying anything. That's how fucking retarded you are. Well, put it back down. That's okay, I can still see this line here, so I'm going to make that go away. Stupid.
Highway 9, right at the 400. The left lane is blocked. And now we have construction coming in. Southbound 400 at King Road. Left lane is blocked for repairs.
Like your timing is what gives you away every time.
You're going to find the 2 left lanes blocked through that area.
Oh, Trink Radio is about to come on. It's this Saturday. 2300 o'clock. So we don't do anything for that. Local time, why the fuck would the liquor store closed?
Liquid's Tire
Wow,
Early Winter Sale is back. Get a $150 instant rebate on select winter tires and free
absolutely
alignments
nothing.
for life.
But
No
you
credit
idiots
checks,
want to
no
mark that
interest
time with
financing
you.
available. Locations at
Let me know you're there, right?
limitlesstire.com. Your next report is at 8:11. And now with the forecast, here's Natasha Ramsay.
Cloudy skies this evening. Slight chance of some isolated showers before we
You
start
see this
breaking up
great
that
thing,
cloud. And it's going to be a chilly start tomorrow. 1 degree as you wake up in the morning. And only up to 7 through the afternoon. We've got some light showers, a couple of millimeters of rain after the light shower. Overnight tonight down to low. Right now in downtown Toronto, it is 8 degrees and overcast 7 at Pearson. 680 news time, 8:02.
We should start to see this week if moving COVID hotspots to a modified stage 2 is making any difference. That
No, that's not how it works. It's not that what we're like. They don't even understand. The numbers go up Always. They never go backwards. All them dead people don't come back in.
Joins us live with the latest from the city's top doctor, Michelle. Caitlin, well, we've now passed the halfway point in the city's modified stage 2. For Mayor John Tory, it's still too soon to release specifics on what comes next. But Tory does say at least one scenario will include a reopening.
I am, of course, not able to say today whether we will be in a position to adopt these kinds of scenarios on day 29, but I have to work with the medical officer, with the province, to see that we have them ready.
So what does a position to reopen look like? The province's top doctor, Dr. David Williams, will only say there are a variety of different metrics used to make that call.
If there was a clear cut,
He doesn't understand what you should order metrics.
But I'm sure someone would say that was not an appropriate application in our setting because our setting is different because of A, B, C, or D.
Here comes as North York General declares a COVID-19 outbreak in the surgical program, confirming 2 staff members who tested positive appear to be linked. Well, the hospital says no patient cases have yet been identified. Surgeries are being postponed in the ward. Reporting live. I'm Michelle.
Proven in court that it was us.
Classes causing hundreds of elementary students in Toronto's public schools to feel unsafe. The Toronto Star speaking with a local mom who says
you jackasses said a girl got raped in the morning.
From one another, and that she feels
Sexually,
safer grocery shop shopping.
A guy pushed another guy on top of her in the afternoon, and then in the evening she was sexually harassed. Within 18 hours, it went from a rape to being harassed.
Classes have too many kids in them, with some having as many as 5 extra kids.
Residents in ridings of Toronto Centre and York Centre voting tonight in a pair of by-election. Party leader Enemy Paul running in the Liberal stronghold of Toronto Centre against Liberal candidate Marcy Ian.
Enemy Paul, that was subtle. That was subtle. You called her an enemy and a boy's name.
It's about listening to what they need, listening to what they want, and letting them know why I made the move and why I want to represent them. This is the first election for both Ian and Paul in York Centre. The leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxime Bernier,
everybody knows that's what government work
from all
is.
major parties. However, he's running under the name Max Bernier instead. Polls close at 8:30. Keep it here on 680 News. We'll bring you the results as they come in.
You're very subtle. You're very subtle. The polls closed. Enemy Paul.
2020. Speaking of elections, on the home stretch in the U.S. election,
what happened to the shooting?
Joe Biden will both be barring storming the battleground states in the next 2 days.
Not even the top story
live with more Stewart.
Oh, when I die, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, and you never said none of it.
Joe Biden's events continue to limit
what happens if you don't set it up? It won't happen.
Physical distancing and masks, something
You
President
go in a box with 400 other people
as
and
he
a whole
packs his
lot of
rallies with supporters.
Wave the white flag on right. He doesn't leave his basement. This guy doesn't leave his basement.
Says the guy hiding in the basement.
Key battleground state today.
And they come down to Pennsylvania.
These presidential candidates busy too. In Minnesota, sitting Vice President Mike Pence supporting peaceful protests but condemning the violence that took place following the death of George Floyd. Meanwhile, on daytime talk shows The View, Biden's running mate Kamala Harris spent time addressing Trump's comments after he called her a monster.
Don't get taught properly the geography. Even though
it's name calling.
I said geography, that's not what I meant.
To pull ahead in
the population levels or anything of any of these places they're talking about.
Reporting live, Stuart begins 680 News.
The most they know is if they see a plate that says Pennsylvania, they'll throw a rock at it. That's just all they know.
Investigating the death of a 30-year-old man in
30?
According
a
to
30-year-old man. It's always supposed to happen to young niggers.
Went into medical distress at the hospital after being brought there by Toronto police officers under the Mental Health Act. Numerous attempts were made by hospital staff to revive him, but they were unsuccessful, and he was pronounced dead at 10:15 Sunday morning. Police are not identifying the man at this time.
One man has died at a second charge with
so when you are dying, you might actually a brain injury will make you act fucked up.
Mark Douglas was at the scene. A 21-year-old is dead. A 20-year-old charged with first-degree murder. A witness says the two men were fighting.
24-year-old was a young man, and the 20-year-old was a man.
7:30 Sunday afternoon.
Three men have been charged with murder in this young man.
She says they need some untainted witness testimony first.
What the argument was about is still under investigation. People inside the store were wearing masks, including the suspect and the victim.
Nobody asked if they were wearing masks. Nobody said anything about masks. All your so-called witnesses said social distancing. None of them said masks.
The young man was shot outside. The accused man.
What are you covering up? VGC. Don't get close.
Later, the accused and the victim were not known to each other.
How do you know that? How the fuck do you know that? Oh, the guy you picked up for murder said he doesn't know the guy. He also says he didn't kill the guy. He also says he wasn't there. He also says he's never touched a gun in his life.
Shared video on social
So
media
how do you know if they're known to each other when the other guy's dead?
Cruiser with an officer inside. Two men are seen slamming the cruiser with a
Slamming!
stick and a rock. Premier Doug Ford was asked about the ongoing dispute today.
Lacrosse sticking around.
Our police officers, they're there to help you, to support you, to keep law and order. Just imagine if we didn't have the police, there'd be anarchy. And
because for 2 years straight, we've had no police presence here.
I think
I've had blood thrown in my face,
someone
everything.
wants to attack our police. It's unacceptable. They need to be held accountable.
The people occupying the Land Saver Commissioner's post is an out-of-context attempt to reframe the violence and further escalate tensions.
Here was All News Radio 60
They're not occupying the land. They're defending it.
Here in Ontario has come down with COVID-19. 680's Tim James reports it's the first confirmed case of its kind in Canada. If you own a dog, there's no need to worry, according to Dr. Sajid Ijaz.
The coronavirus, which
this guy thinks dogs are not go to heaven.
As humans, so the strains are different.
No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. The influenza virus, influenza A,
really solid to prove
the influenza A virus. The A stands for avian bird.
He says, don't worry about changing how you interact with your dog, but you may want to include them in your bubble. I'm Tim James. Up in 30 seconds, we'll check on the price of the pumps.
Don't change how you interact with your dog. Let everybody else cut it, and you cut it. Do this all day long. Yes, you do. Don't change how you interact with your dog. Think about including them in your bubble.
There are lots of ways to treat your
The dog's been in your bubble the whole time. He's in your bed.
Or try alternative methods.
Remember, these are the same people. They buy a dog every year, give it to the humane the OSPCA. Oh, they found it in a new home. No, they didn't. They kill half all the animals that come in.
Temporary symptom relief of cough, sore throat, and nasal congestion.
Refuse to train the thing. Oh, I want that freedom. That way your dog just keeps stepping into the road and licking shit off the floor. They see it all the time. People letting their dog just stand there looking at the dog. The dog is licking a shit stain off a phone pole. Hey, the dog is stupid. It's not his fault. You're supposed to stop it and train it not to do that.
Serving coffee fresh every 20
minutes. I have to explain to you why licking shit is bad for something that shit. I don't think you need to know how to do it. Licking it to the world.
Over the years, and I'm particularly careful about what I put under the floors. On my projects, I use DMX One Step 2.0. This easy to install
DMX told me to put you under the floor,
that allows moisture to evaporate, and it doesn't require wood subfloors, which can be a food source for mold growth.
If you're putting on wood, anything on a concrete, anything, you are stupid. Stupid. Hey, you see all the signs that flash and say it's a school zone? In the white neighborhoods, the cell phone antenna is pointed up in the air. In the black neighborhoods, it's pointed down towards the direction the kids will be watching. Yeah, it doesn't hit at altitude, it's kids. And it's a wooden post, 4x4, whatever, set directly into the concrete of the sidewalk. A wood post set directly into the concrete of the sidewalk. So it will rot and get moldy and
just have a look through this area. It's really not causing a big delay for you. If you're traveling on the Toronto-bound 2E, we have construction at the Burlington Skyway. 2 left lanes are blocked, so you'll be forced into the 2 right lanes. And then at Ford Drive, the right lane has been closed off, but no delays from what I can see on our cameras here. The major routes around the GTA, very quiet. Make the switch to 407 ETR paperless billing today, and you could win a year of stress-free, reliable commutes.
These people that have never done business with this company still get bills in the mail. The MTO tells you you have to pay it, or you don't get to keep your license.
Cool below seasonal temperatures. That's going to continue for another day. We're going to wake up to 1 degree and a couple of sunny breaks. By the afternoon, we're back into about trace to 2 millimeters of light rain. 7 degrees the high. And then we're back to sunshine, though, wall-to-wall sunshine, in fact, on Wednesday with a high
wall-to-wall
Tonight, we're down to a low of 1 degree.
You are dumb as a rock, woman.
Right now in downtown Toronto, 8 degrees and overcast is 7 at Pearson with some clouds. 680 news time, 8:12.
The Toronto Firefighters Union is laying blame in the hands of the city for staffing shortages. According to a new report, over 200 more firefighters are needed in the city of Toronto this year in order to staff their 142 vehicles, 14 of those which are sitting idle without enough staff to put them into service.
Oh yeah, you think I'm joking when I point these things out to you? You're paranoid. Do I go kill people while you think about it?
Currently, Toronto Fire Services must hire when operation staffing is at 40 below its approved limit of over 2,000 firefighters. Toronto raccoon looking for a job at Timmy's, maybe? Turning some heads today. A Reddit user posting the picture of the trash panda behind a store counter at the Tim Hortons near Main and Danforth, while Raccoon was doing his best to make a double-double. A Tim Hortons employee can be seen standing behind the animal on the phone, hopefully telling someone to remove the store's newest employee. Coming up in 60 seconds.
Never mind, they're not supposed to touch the raccoon. It could be ravished. They're not animal control experts. They barely know how to make coffee.
For more than a quarter century, Northwood Mortgage has been supporting Canadians through the good times and bad. We know it's a struggle for everyone right now, so let's think about your cash flow. Now's the time to consider refinancing your home with a no-payment mortgage. Northwood Mortgage is working harder to get you the funds you need. We're here for you, and we're more flexible than the banks. Apply online at northwoodmortgage.com.
License 10349. Gary from Canadian Tire here.
And me, Super Mega Big Gary.
The biggest tire sale of the year is
back for a limited time.
Get up to 25% off top tire brands like
Michelin.
Weird noises and other words, and I bet you other people have been unable to
Super Mega Big Gary.
Yes.
Easy on the air horn.
Okay.
The biggest tire sale ends soon, so hurry in before October 29th. Shop online or in-store. No rain checks, conditions apply. See in-store for details. This is All News Radio, 680 News. We got an overcast sky here in downtown Toronto, sitting at 8 degrees. Good evening, I'm Scott Burnett.
And I'm Caitlin Lane here for top stories this hour.
Just 50 minutes to go. Toronto by-elections, Green Party leader Annamie Paul hoping to grab Liberal stronghold Toronto Centre after the departure of former Finance Minister Bill Morneau and People's Support former Prime Minister Nancy Bernier moved to take a seat in the York Centre. The state of schools in a COVID-era Toronto in disarray with decreased enrollment to the tune of 5,500 students this fall. Thousands of elementary students opting for online classrooms and another steady cases of COVID-19
Nothing on my face, nothing on my chest. Don't you get through this? I got the confidence.
No, that's not how it works. Yes, how the fuck do you know that? You got it from a bat or a pangolin or a jaguar or a domestic dog.
Cash rules, not rings around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. I'm the opposite of Microsoft. I'm big. Let that resonate, maybe a little more. I got the lyricism sprinkled with a lot. I make my sauce authentic on the chopping board. Baby, it's spicy, be careful. Don't check the bottle too much, be gentle. It's kinda high on the Scoville level. Don't burn your tongue, don't get it in your eyes too. I turn reality into a lucid dream. I turn the lucid dream into whipped cream. Cash rules, nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. Self-care, yeah, I got a lot of that. No food tastes good as having a six-pack. You should cut your snacks same way you cut that crack. Then you wouldn't look fat as a Cadillac. Baby, looking like a snack. I can see you dipping squats on the squat rack. I don't need a beat, I don't really need a track. You can be my producer with your booty clap. I turn reality into a lucid dream. I turn the lucid dream into whipped cream. Cash rules, nothing around me. I only use it for paper planes, actually. Baby, keep your pants on, zip tight, locked off. This is not the time for you to rack it up. We be in court, the judge is getting crossed. You robbed the bank, baby. You took your mask.
Robbed the bank, baby. You took your mask off. Bear in mind, I selected all these tracks before all this shit came out. We just coincidentally say all these things. It's prophecy. Anyway. So the earliest that I know of chronologically that we have seen COVID-19 identified is March 2019 in sewage sample. I believe it was Spain. Yeah. In January, we had the first case I made a point of was out of, I believe, Hong Kong. Yeah, Hong Kong. Some woman got it from her. Some woman and her dog both tested positive. A domesticated dog. It's not some different strain just because it's in a dog. All these are, oh, you can't get it for the dog, and their mouth is cleaner than yours. No, it's not. It's different. It's not cleaner. The dog can eat raw meat full of maggots and get a bit of indigestion and curl up in a cave and shit diarrhea all over the mouth of the cave in the morning, and the next day he'll be fine. Yeah, you can't. It's cleaner that way, I suppose, because he deals with the dead meat and stuff. There are already 146 strains mutated from COVID-19. SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, has developed into 146 different mutations, strains, SNPs, gene swaps, or whatever, gene pairs, however you want to phrase it. Before that, a coronavirus, the common cold. I know you hate to admit that. Is it a relation to the common cold? It is the common cold. Remember when your dog or your cat, like, occasionally would get a cold? Like, remember the first time that happened in the 80s? No, it didn't happen it happened like once in the 80s. And then it happened several times in the first half of the 90s. And then it was normal in the second half of the 90s, wasn't it? The cold virus, the coronavirus that they never used to get. Right. Something I already covered. The lady in Hong Kong in January. There were cats at the, was it San Francisco Zoo or something? Or Phoenix Zoo or some shit. Whichever fucking zoo. The jaguars or something. Big cats got COVID. Domesticated dogs got COVID. COVID-19. Yeah, no, there's 146 strains since then. Oh, you can't get it from your dog. How do you know? You just said it's a unique strain. Okay, you're talking as if that means a strain is a cultivated variety. No such thing as a strain. Cannabis. It's 65% indica and 35% sativa. No, it's not. Those are two different species that don't blend. They don't breed together. They're two different species, just like Cannabis ruderalis. Oh, cannabis hemp is a different thing. No. That's cannabis with a rating that is arbitrarily set, for example, in Canada at 0.3%, 0.3% of THC in the top third of the plant. Yeah, it's a specific measurement. It's not the whole plant. The top third of the... Oh, why I'm saying any of this.
You took 100K, left it at my front door. Thought it was funny, nice joke. Cause you know I bail you out no matter what the cost. I need that flavor, baby. Shit, cause I got the sauce. Cause I got the sauce. I said it cause I got the sauce.
I don't want any water to touch these.
Shit, cause I got the sauce.
I have to separate the dry ones from the ones that aren't dry.
Shit, cause I got the sauce.
Tomatoes. Tomatoes don't go well with stainless steel. They stick right to it. Even the aluminum.
Look like me, man. A lot of game. A lot of hustle, man.
Remember, I keep using the same mainstream news sources over and over. The same idiot that just told you, you cannot get it from your dog 6 months ago. A woman in Hong Kong got COVID from her dog. Same fucking retard. He's not retarded. Why has he done the same job 25 years? If the sentence goes dash, he pauses. Left, down. Oh, I'm not even joking. Listen to this motherfucker talk. Oh, he's an older white man, so he's educated. No, that's something you've been programmed for. I don't believe that because most white guys out here are not educated. Only the majority of the population, and the minority is secondary educated, tertiary, whatever educated. And that means post-secondary. After 2 comes 3. 1, 2, post 2. I went to post 2 education. I went to more than 2. You can't say 3. Doctors go to like Florida. Don't they? Doctors and lawyers? Lawyers got to write a bar exam. Doctors got to deal with the College of Physicians and Surgeons, which ain't fun. You're never 100% sure if they're going to back you up or not, are you? That there. This here. This one there. Go over there. Smoke it. I'll do this in a second. So half of these are dry and half are wet. So we'll go back. Wow. Those are fucking crazy little bullshit. You can't get it from your dog. Because this guy that I racially pigeonholed him, and he responded instantly. A less than human being. Remember, this good same guy thinks there's 4 classes of humans, and they're based on skin color. Say Dali to him. He's like, I don't want nothing to do with it. How do I know? 2 different doctors with the same fucking last name somehow. Oh, that blood draw we did that almost killed you, we ran it to the lab. All the extra units too. 3 units of blood. They did a cholesterol test. I don't have a cholesterol problem. Oh, this means you didn't have a heart attack. But that's not what it means. It means if I did have a heart attack, it wasn't caused by cholesterol. It was caused by your phlebotomy. Sanita, Albany Clinic. Hey, if you never complain, they can never tell you you're not allowed to talk about it.
Never not a rapper, that's bad.
Oh, I didn't know it was a vacuum. It doesn't say vacuum on it, so I don't know why she pretended looking at it and educated. Yeah, pretending to be ignorant. Because I'm ignorant because I'm black. Right. Oh, we don't know what you are. Why won't you tell me my blood type?
My mom's brother had that weight. We caught him Uncle Phil. Like you could be as fresh as a prince, but I had that fucking well. I met a muscle car. Shorty in the forest, till I'm in the cut, and some fucking party scoring. Niggas that was worried, over whores that were whoring. If I put my 50 cents in it, rains when it's pouring. Like none of you niggas fuck with me. Dollars, my young boy gon' smoke it for 150. Trying to lead us wrong with 250. If the soldiers were sword, I got 300 with me. Did you say your prayers for the day yet? Niggas getting smoked and had to take a rain check. Hey, I'm Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face. Hey, I'm Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face. Like,
oh, you're a piece of garbage.
I know that they ain't about that.
Hold on.
We was cutting beef.
You got police video of a guy throwing blood in my face calling me garbage. And you refuse to charge someone. But if we attack the 6 foot and Scottish religion, you're garbage. Did the Ukrainians have a tolerance for fascism? Are you serious? They put their prime minister in jail. In jail! A Ukraine jail!
You a Mexican. You ain't even smell the shit that you were stepping in. You can ask kids from the Rough Rider president. If they hitting, then we hitting back like Jono. We grew up off of cow foot and chicken back. Y'all know, no love for farmers or a licky back. Big gun, bullshit guaranteed to get lit with that. My papa said I had no autopsy. I stay giving niggas autopsies. Hey, I'm Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face. Hey, I'm Mary, full of grace. Smack the bitch in the face.
So, if anybody didn't go in chronologically or watching to this point, there's a possibility I got some type of cancer. It's not the biggest possibility, but I got weird things growing all over, and I noticed my brain. That's funny. A lot more than it used to. So I don't know if you're a medical student watching these. I don't mean to spoil the ending. It may well be a brain tumor or something. I got things growing all over my body that ain't supposed to be there. My blood don't bleed like they took. Oh, it can't hurt you because this and that. And oh, I didn't know you were black. Why'd you tell me cannot happen? No, I didn't know you were in there. I didn't know. By the way, that white woman screaming at the black woman, the black woman looking at the cop, and then the cops didn't come. When the woman left the stall with her back. Why were you flipping out on that woman, you white supremacist piece of shit? What have you been told already 3 weeks ago? Once they're on the sidewalk, you can't touch them no matter what they do. You're the one committing a crime. They love hiring people that you look in the mirror. Oh, dark skin. I'm black. You got a suntan, stupid. If you get darker when the sun comes out, you're not black. And no, I don't get darker. So the last 2.5 years. The last 2.5 years, we found this demarcation point and this one up here, and the only legs don't change for like how much sun they get.
Pick the fluctuate, it's a rental. It's the only thing that's switching up. The game chill like menthol. Yo, who are you is Kimbo? I've been broken, came up it, lost that and still cold. You niggas joking, still broke. Bring my niggas in and out. I'm about to hit the books, I'm the accountant. Tunnel vision, Rook versus all them crooks, I am surrounded. Pretty like the pound get. My fight barking louder than these gang events. Ain't none of you has been a threat. I'll show you how this 30 get. That's my age guard, it's been the next planet for the president. These folks are flashing on what game they rap. I never knew about Snoopy and Connect. I was the first female to run the rappers rap.
I wiped it on my leg.
You twisted cause I cut the dress. The principal of all the hats. I'm surely about this bread though. When I was talking about my kinfolk, them years ended 0. There's deuces on the decade. You jump on so still fake. I'm coming through the fuck it up like Luke Cage. I'm wavy like the loose spray. I still
I like having them face up and droplets on them because I keep thinking fungus will land on there or something.
Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize.
I don't do anything.
Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize. When y'all were getting shot up, I was getting my bars up. I'm still getting caught under the messenger rider. Sex, drugs, and murder for money. You
more dings in it, the better, because it'll reflect.
You
See, it's
still
all
listening, then you was lucky. You were public.
I want the dogs to associate their stainless steel with food and water.
You bitches lost your sight and your breath.
Oh, he reads well. Then you don't read nothing. You can see the metal.
You and your homie gon' be sharing your casket. We carry that ratchet and sending you a burial package. It's very relaxing. The way we taking care of the packets get carried in plastic and dumped from an aerial vantage. My moms used to say I'm always taking advantage. Nah, cause really I ain't taking the fat shit. Like these are kind of people that report to the flag shit. And all my work float like a stay in a damn ship. So I defend this bitch, I be strapped like Stan Smith. And boy, that ain't no reference. I love the glitzy 1911, my preference. Get you fired from your job with a severance. I kill the biggest bear like the Revenant. And wear your fur bit so everybody shares it. Fuck around with Charlie, bro, I'm getting on some murder shit. Big gun, then you know I'm gonna defend the turf with it. Bubble like a stripper on the floor with a work. Shake up your vehicle like it's turbulence. My A-rap keep explosives where it's turbulence. You feel the cold, I'll turn the heat on it, courteous. My treaty niggas put the poison in your curry dish. Mr. Opia, mix the pipe, burpee heads and okra. Boy, I'll get you soaked up. Tie him up and roped up. Chain look like gold dust. What's wrong, you know us. Fetched on and still get your dough cut. Sex, money, get mad is what I
Isn't this some type of slang we throw out? Like randomly, this guy and me both said it. You know what the fuck we are, Scorpion? That's why sometimes the first thing somebody's mouth is, oh, I don't know you. Why are you talking to me then?
Sex, money, and murder is what I fantasize.
So my landlord was like, in 2008, he would be 100 right now if he's alive. I don't know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I have no idea. Maybe, maybe not. It's one of those things in life. He told me that in China, long time he's an old man. When he was like younger in China, things were. You done? It doesn't load the track at the last second. I know, you wait till approximately the last few seconds where you thought the end of the track was, and you start dumping on the IP, you know. It loads 30, 60 or 30 seconds. About 45 seconds before the end of the track. This is done. Because I see it glitch for a split second. Not 18 fucking seconds. Oh, no, Thursday going there. So he said, in order to have growth, first you need stable conditions. He said, way back in the day in China, no food. They didn't have enough food to feed everybody. This was the problem they were facing. When I let it go, they take it off like a race. Niggas always rap, 25, on my face. When you think I'm on this block, making cash different ways. Dipping through these heads of shots, pushing back your waves. Your mom catching grades when my niggas sit and laugh. But this is straight, not sticking for the stash. Chill, cause John knows I got the stacks at my base. But I'm still robbing it, still shooting shots, no shoes, get them laced. Do the scene dirty, get away with no trace. Oh, you could move from China to Canada before that. But there was no foreign embassy where you said open doors and shit. The one-child policy was a rumor in the 80s. In the 80s, it was a rumor. Old military guys would say, you got more than one kid in China, like, so tight. Sound like I heard it first time? Wasn't in the news.
When it comes down in the long run, you niggas broke, I'm the man with the long gun. You're fucking with the wrong one. If my niggas broke, I'll get you smoked out like a dope patty. Nigga owe you from this chrome lead. You owe me, pay me, or I flip things. Anything I find is mine, then I'm a jet. Certain niggas shouldn't chip, better off with a check. Certain niggas shouldn't grip, freeze when they see fence. Freeze when they see goonies. But it's nothing like the movie. Bunch of young youths.
Considering it's just going wild. It's not being watered like at dawn and dusk every day or nothing. And this had to have grown in the last couple of weeks or so. So the last 2 weeks has been raining once a week or so.
I mean on my guns. So come try to I love guns. And my gun loves me. Strap on my side like a wife and a hug. Clean shit, nice shit, no kid, honey. I rubber band money. That's why the bitches come try and jack me. I brought the strap with me.
Too hot. 20 ounces and up. No, I guess we should say 16 ounces and up. Whatever. No, I heard one of these fans acting retarded. What was that thing I was going to say? Nothing use. Oh, I did see up close, these grapes do make flowers, incredibly small ones. And I know this because here at the end of October, they're still flowering. This song is so harsh. It's not the same one. I literally just picked the song. That's the church that I'm not going to go to anytime soon. This is about Trudeau, I'm pretty sure. Oh, so These little ones there, I'm not sure if there's a seed in there. If I push them hard enough, nothing, so if they get
looks like a dog, so it must be a Shylock. Panama Papers, FFF-Netflix, premismandaten, allemaal zeker. Frauduleuze vis en twisrij, wordt de voedselbank doodgevroren daklozen in de grote steden. Meer en meer belastingen dan een afschakelplan. Vastgoedmafia, gemeenteraadsleden. Veel te veel zaak voor veel te weinig vetzakken. Veel te veel redenen voor veel te weinig protest. Loop ik met de kudde mee, terwijl ik met de kraan lopen. Kan niet langer verder zo, alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Je merkt het, ja, alles is te duur voor mij. Ik ga niet met de liefde, man. Alles is te duur voor mij.
The worm is dead.
Alles is te duur voor mij.
It didn't die when I picked it up and put it in my pocket. It died when I kicked it. I didn't need to kick it. You see a worm crawling across the sidewalk in the rain? They're looking for the leaves in the gutter. You leave the leaves there long enough, the worms eat them, turn them to shit, and then the maple seeds grow, and then you got maple trees growing out of catch basins.
Alles wat verwaarloosd, corrupte flikken, magistraten, politieke marginalen. Allemaal de schuld van het monetaire systeem. Kreml die praktijken, stijgende stroomvoorzieningsprijs. Er valt hier niks te rapen, zolang je de elite niks niet afneemt. Conclusies kunnen pakken, gele groene bazen pakken. Witness gooien nog te stoppen, nog klein geld om op de bus te stappen. Anders vliegen in de bak, de waardes gaan wisselen. Ogen omhoog, tom, kwaadhouders sukkelen. Gerellen discuut pas, de koe en couleur. Kijken door de keyhole, van de glazen spiegeldeur. Strak mijn eigen retten in, is omdat we kwaad worden. Iedereen rondom mij leidt, want alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij, je merkt het, ja, nee, alles is te duur voor mij. Ik ga niet met de liefde, man. Alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Alles is te duur voor mij. Je merkt het, ja, ik ga niet met de liefde, want alles is te duur voor mij.
Take some of the heat smokes and things. Thanks.
So the dreams recast. We beat them schizo kids. We beat them schizo kids. Hey yo.
What am I trying to get from? I think we're
words of smile, talk explicit and blind, and enter define as a grim reaper around the dog, not a master. Spit natural disaster, rust for won't crash.
Knock my weed down. That's okay. Don't fall out.
Welcome to Mi'kmaq Matters, a podcast you
got the heathens. With all due respect, nigga. Joe says with all due respect, it means in their head they don't owe you any respect. And they're gonna sideswindedly disrespect you. And you don't realize you're disrespecting, that's because you're ignorant. That's what nigger means. That's not what it means. It's never meant that. I don't know who started that story, but it didn't go around the world, bro.
Daddy, man, had a jumping. The cat is like a shock attack, like one-on-one with Duncan. A crossover layer, maybe I might just now with Duncan. Bodies on top of bodies, I had a conscience bunking. I'm pulling up in no front. Making most of that foot. Let's take it back to that raw, yeah. 10 man to that store, yeah. Big fun, another number 4. When the number short, it's 100 more. I get 100 cards on the tele boy for the rock with a line spot. Yes, I got a iron boy with a press niggas out Africa. You niggas soft like why you niggas wanna try me for now my niggas are Prispanicals like dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs to get my body across like an arrow does. Beware of us. New Toronto or old Toronto, same shit. Nah, just keep 6, cause 6 up whenever Drake snitch. New Toronto or old Toronto, same shit.
Nah, just keep 6, cause 6 up
Toronto
whenever
Street,
Drake snitch.
New Toronto Street, and West Toronto Street. That's just in Toronto, Ontario. I would have left it on the Beijing hour earlier, but the guy's different voice is what threw me out.
Round everybody up! Twisted Blaze, the ROC. I got a letter from the government the other day. I opened it and read it. It said they was bitches. One of these 7, like Simon, anybody killer. Dope Dublin, ICP. A letter to the the gang banging at the mall. A kid 14 and his boys from Omaha.
Boys.
Oh my God, he's on a skateboard. FBI guy been a tree. Scarred, spying on a jungle.
So you know what it does to kids that aren't gang related, don't have an interest in committing crimes or anything? That puts them in a position where they start to understand where the gangbangers are coming from. And they weren't even trying to understand. Like, I get it now. When these black guys say the cops are picking on them, I believe them now. And it no matter how racist the parents are to try to put that in them, for what color the kid, they fucking gonna learn. Without us, it's not us telling them. You've been listening to those the black people, you've been hanging out with black people again. White people do that, black people don't. Black person won't waste their breath trying to tell you how white people are. Why would they? That don't even make sense. Why would they waste their breath? They're going to live half as long as those white people, and you're going to listen to the white people anyway, so they won't waste their breath. Logic tears you apart there.
Peddling drugs, but let me tell you, all that meddling does is makes us want to leave you embedded in drugs. Free speech, motherfucker. Check this out. I want some pussy, or I'ma shoot a cop in the mouth. Bang guts, hang.
I'm going to collect every grape I can find. They can't have blueberries, I'll have grapes. Somebody out there got blueberries and no grapes, right? Okay, my ankle going crazy.
For 20 years, I've been getting paid. The boss call me an old man. I call me Long Dick Payne. Young sweet baby Violent J never get played. You America, goddamn retarded, so I walk around with a mouth full of shit, spitting shit in the face of Lady Liberty. Pushing swiftly through these days in a black 300, looking like I'm straight up.
I want to try to separate them all. I don't listen to work either. The one thing at a time. All the small ones are dry, the big ones are wet.
Don't just doubles every second. Lose the weapon. I am the ROC. A house full of skinny jeans. I've kept the debris. I'm a disease in the cliff. You seek and help the disease. A resurrection from the click. We will stay up underground so you can never let them cocksuckers put us on your truth. The roof is a star. I walk the heavens, keep it locked. We gon' rob the solar system with this shit. We can't stop. You can't hurt our name. You can't sell our game. Fuck you and your claim. We don't bang. We're family. I'm quick to say fuck a bitch. I spit gangster shit. I've been federally indicted. I'm a killer from the West. Don't get blah. 187. The psychopath. I come through shit down.
I didn't really know what I was doing these grapes, and I've been trying to figure it out for 8 years.
So fuck the FBI. You know why? They took 41 months of my life. That's why I ride and do or die. Hustle worldwide. Kick your door and hit you for your guap and back to the west side. No witnesses of bloody homicide. Cause believe me when I step, ain't nobody getting left alive. The type of bitch in that place for you. Some people in the streets, I got the balls embarrassing them cheap. So catch me in the old school classic, rapping and juggalos and everybody down with the hatchet. That's just for the bulls, beat for bringing bullshit. It's my reply, so yes, I feel included. Times really ain't changed. Fans say charade. Music is the devil in the order, shit the brain. Juggalo, I roll, underground I slow. Family is forever, so the family will grow. I'm the FBI, full-blooded Indian. Best ready to ride, native pride once again. It's official. I had to go buy a new pistol, just in case I hit a pig's whistle. Pull me over for a fucking purpose, not because
Look at you, you're like a year and change old, and you're fucking biting me, stupid. You're drowning coffee. Make your heart go faster, so you die faster, stupid. With all that sugar, you can't digest. You ain't struggling, you're upside down, that'll push you deeper.
Family trying to burn down my tree, cut no branches like timber. If you had it your way, we'd be assembly. You pop on the road, you can pick the stoic look on my face as it changed from this day. Man, hey, why you spitting your pulpit? I want to see your balls spit all over the place. You were covered in all this toxic, no cure, antibiotics. You think we are so sick? We know you're neurotic, a pure psychotic.
You know bed bugs can test bites? You probably never noticed the one did that to you.
You can't solve our game. Fuck you and your claim. We don't bang.
We're family.
Watch me blast off, laughing my ass off. Calling us a gang, y'all high off gas off. We hot as asphalt, they watching us on every level. What if they told you that you can't listen to heavy metal? What if they told you that you had to listen to the devil? But what they tell you, we some rebels, so they persecute. We don't control the policies, so they hurt the youth. Cause we free thinking, smoking, free drinking. They wanna catch us sleeping, we ain't even blinking. Fuck the fans on my leg, they some suckers. I really think they mad cause they wives wanna fuck us. The government don't wanna see me on some psycho shit. It's worse than the freeway sniper mixed with Michael Vick. Now they all fuck, wanna catch us in a twist. J. Edgar Hoover, you can suck a motherfucking dick. And we ain't stop until you take us off the fucking list.
I've been hustling and grinding since I was new to the game. Before the songs and the videos and the screaming the name. Before the diamond crusted hatchet, man, it swung from the chain. And I was bringing the business and all the tricks and tricks. Learn to live it like I said it, it's a family affair. A million painted faces in the crowd with hands in the air. A hand of love is from above and the devil rightly beneath. But the evil stares and shit talking can never compete. They wanna take us out the game and even call it a game. Checking for tattoos and cars, sticking, studying slang. Man, it's amazing how ridiculous the shit has become. Hoping the pride to go away, but all the strong and the same. It's only greater if anything. The load get heavy, but the goals stay the same. Put the worries in the levy. People tell us every day that we the reason they survive. The true incentive of keeping hope alive. We don't die.
You don't hide.
Habitual line stepper, a criminal rhyme shredder, put a gun in your jaw and make the world better. But instead, I just shoot for the chat. Jamming in my waist to Eddie Vedder, looking for more than a bad rapper. I'm forever like word.
That is a hole.
So cash and money, and the feds want to ruin all that. Now that's funny. I put a 5-hole.
Explains why I found it in the bushes.
To emulate the face of a killer for my survival. Flatline your vitals, and I'm dangerous and labeled a psycho. That ain't even the reason they want to keep us from the micro. My freedom of speech is what I would die for. FBI's my lifelong rival. Crosshairs and in the scope of my rifle.
You can't hurt our name. You can't solve our game. Fuck you and your claim. We don't bang.
We're family.
You can't hurt our
I don't want to try to separate. That doesn't make sense if you do them all together.
Fuck you and your claim. We don't bang.
We're family.
Fucker. I killed your buddy 2 minutes ago, eh? You still in it. I killed your buddy, but 2 minutes ago. Fucking hell, I can't fucking, it's anything to do with numbers today. Wow, engineering, math. Got one match. Is a little fucking candidate. Yeah, I can't touch my shoes that I kick garbage with all day, and then these berries that were just washed by the rain, because that would be fucking stupid. I don't like thinking that the Bible chapter numbers has something to do with math and engineering. Fucking bit me. I can't find it. I know something just hit me. If you bit me on the exact same goddamn spot. Motherfucker, like in the last 13
Yeah, you already know who it is. Your boy, Playboy Bandido, rocking my man Tycho.
notice for about a month they were attacking the tobacco? No. And I slipped and told them, by the way, that's a Mohawk prayer, and it hasn't happened in weeks. Thanks.
Choices in the
Oh, look at that. We got 3 minutes left. Wow. So in 20 minutes, we got 1 minute of work done. 3 minutes left. Good thing we're used to that. We're used to paying twice. We're used to people were making on every fucking deal they make. As a culture, we do not give credit, ever. Oh, to our own people, yeah, because even if they don't pay us back, they hate that.
But let me cook slick summer weekends. I could've looked cause I was in the deep end. See, that just shows that these niggas shallow. Turn your backs on your homies for the owl. Or maybe you was just too wild and you ain't want the status. Like that's G-Lock and Charlie Care if he had it. I'm still a savage. And you can keep the little money you took. A big difference in you and I. A big difference between a black boy and a crook. That's why we used to nice black dogs. They running scared but they act on. Another 20 years of stuff violation. I tell you what's love, not a raw hatred. It's usually your friend that set you up so that you help them up. This nigga's kind of grateful. You cut it from a small vibe. You should stick to one of these niggas. At a small time. Niggas made the moves and I was offline. Now if I react, it'll cost mine.
Every fucking day, the same group of child molesters.
Now if I react, it'll cost mine. And think of all my niggas in the pen that had lost time.
They think somehow speaking French is something to do with speaking Creole. That's something to do with practicing white people's voodoo. So you learn it from.
I can't see shit out of my fucking eye.
How the story goes. Getting screaming real voice and the vocal cords. Time is shown quick balling with her runny nose. She dressed like Rose, faker than plastic hoes. Why you mad at me? Won't you on the wrong one? Sacrifice the altar, throwing rocks at your broken. Loud packs of roster. Kindling through the clouds, red eyes being faulty. Sky circle with vultures. Your eyes ain't matching the smile. Why you clenching? Play through, catch wise, and it's the same. Got so much light behind walls and barely missing. Walking the people lying to support the distance. Eyes wide, truthfully, and more probably. Only few ounces of pressure to leave a crime scene. Please stop forcing my hand, like you don't know my name. I ain't got shit left to lose and I'll throw it all away.
Now if I react, it'll cost mine. And think of all my niggas in the pen that had lost time. Now if I react, it'll cost mine. Now if I react, it'll cost mine.
So many of these people are getting sick because they don't wear the mask. Because public health told them you're wearing the mask to protect other people. So they don't understand. It's filtering the air on the way in too. They don't understand that. Every time they lean in my face, breathing out, they breathe in again. But it's not my air they're breathing in. It's whoever the fuck just did that to me 2 minutes earlier. Or whatever. Please, jam up the music some more, Mr. Agent Man. Jam up the music some more, Mr. Agent Man. I know where this blueberry is. Just a 5-kilometer walk away, and I don't feel like walking that far. I'm not up to walking that far right now. Please, keep biting my fucking leg.
Flyest niggas since kindergarten, liars. Shoot stupid kicks been retarded. I make the coat black when I'm in the market. I make the price drop like I'm in the Target. I'm like a holy prophet trying to make a profit. Rough rider, legendary prospect. I ain't well off yet. Shout out my gunman, friend, yo. 10-4-5s in my extender. 2 extra clips for the extra shit. And each whole 7, you getting blessed with it. Yeah, I got so much beef, my ex was stressed with it. Why? It was eye for an eye. Old Testament. Bottom of wells, my heart dwells. Treating these waters like shark tails. My homie got lashed, was all bail. I had waved the shit, got back over full bail. The rats used to sit me on range and go tell. Catch him at court, stopping with Jordans like Montel. Swear to God, I would never pray to Jesus. For the extras, I'ma escape the people. Every day I pay for new AKs. That's Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pay for new AKs.
I'm waiting to stop knowing you know. I haven't touched the mouse, I haven't clicked nothing, I haven't nothing. I lean to one side, and you're jumping on.
Every day I pay for
Keep doing it, bro.
Every day I pay for new AKs. Pablo. Every day I pay for new AKs. Look, the hottest kid in the kitchen, I've been nice. God said you double crossing me, think twice. Gold chains, gold in my mouth, case full of ammunition. Cocaine on my nosebleed, that's a Kathy Griffin. Bullets light up in my ATL sending your section 80, what? The fuck do you think the mafia pay me for? Young, rich, and handsome, bullets like an anthem. When they started singing, everybody put their hands up.
Come on, motherfucker, hurry the fuck up.
God boy, how many hoes can I fit inside you? Scratched up with lines around them like the kids of I know. Put up with the Mac in front of like the shit.
Oh, he's gonna touch that button. No, it's not what I'm
doing. I would never pray to Jesus. For the extras, I'ma scrape.
Click! I want the track to change. We've caught you doing that twice. Click in the track change.
Every day I pray for new AKs.
This is fucking stupid.
Every day I pray for new AKs. El Chapo. Every day I pray for new AKs.
Why don't you just close the window by itself? Because there's 3 minutes left and it'll take me 4 to get back online with you jumping on my feet. I don't care. You're not proving anything to me. See, sis already came out and told us everybody in the Human Intelligence Network is someone they blackmail for having what is... Wow. Everything's working instantly. Thank you. I'm still waiting for you to stop doing it, bro. I still have not clicked on a button. I still have not... Watching what you... Wow, bro. Wow. It freeze the timer, freeze the picture, freeze the timestamp, and do the same thing again. Wow. And pretend that this jam up is from the track loading, right? It's the other way around. The track can't load because we filled up the buffer as much as it'll go, right? You really don't want us to hear this, eh? Come on, make up your mind what you will and won't do. Hurry the fuck up, stupid. You're stupid. You know, like